New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by ChevyOffers.com, the presenting sponsor of Baseball Night in New York. By Rico, move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. By Honda, see your Honda dealer and discover the great values now being offered. By Subway, introducing the play of the day at Subway, a regular 6-inch sandwich for only $2.99. Try all 7 Subway Eat Fresh. And by Dodge, you can take life as it comes or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. The infield and the outfield have taken plenty of water over the last 24 hours. The grounds crew, without Chris Cotter, has been working very diligently to get this field in shape to play here today. That warning track had a lot of water on it, but they have worked with it with the diamond dry and the rakes to make sure that things would be as dry as they needed to be for the game today. As we check out the Rico Phillies lineup, Chris Coast, the 33-year-old rookie, having himself quite a first experience in the big leagues. Otherwise, the regular lineup going for the Phillies here today against John Maine. And Jimmy Rollins takes a first pitch strike, and we're underway. The time is very early, and we're playing baseball here at Shea. 1-1 to Rollins. Rollins just 1 for 10 in this series. And Maine ahead of the count. Rollins hitting at .274. The top 10 in the league in runs scored and hits and steals and doubles, and Maine just misses 2-2. The Phillies start the day just 1 game back in the National League wild card race, and Rollins fouls it off Loduca. Loduca was not going to play yesterday because of the rainout. He gets an extra start.
The woes of being a backup catcher. Mike DeFelice did not get a start, so on the bench again today it's Mike.
3-2 to Rollins. Maine has been pretty good at not walking people. 2.6 walks per 9 innings. Awfully good for a rookie pitcher. And Rollins drives one to the gap in right center. That'll roll all the way to that soggy warning track. Rollins to second, and he's in standing with a leadoff double. His 36th double of the year.
Well, on this pitch, of course, John Maine just trying to come in, throw a strike. He does. Jimmy Rollins pounds his ball to right center. And you're right, Gary. Just gingerly going over to pick that ball up was Carlos Beltran. Made sure he didn't fall on that slippery field.
So a runner at second base for Shane Victorino. Victorino 4 for 8 in this series, and perhaps the Phillies playing for 1 early run.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how John Maine reacts. He and Paul Loduca. He doesn't shake Loduca off very much. It's the 3rd start against Philadelphia. So see if he mixes in more of his breaking stuff, off-speed stuff.
Victorino bunts it foul. So Charlie Manuel looking to move the runner with the bunt.
We'll see John Maine's numbers here in his last 6 starts, 3 wins and 3 no decisions. But it's been awfully tough and very valuable for the New York Mets starting rotation.
Victorino playing every day in center field since the season-ending injury to Aaron Rowan, and he fouls it away 1-2. It's a very different looking Phillies team than it was a month ago, and yet this month has been a spectacular one for the Phillies. They've gone 16-8 in August, and Charlie Manuel has his team right in the thick of the wild card race. Victorino hits it hard. Short hop by Woodward. No chance for Rollins to advance as Victorino's out at first base. Rollins had to hold up to make sure that Woodward wouldn't catch that on the fly, and so he could not advance even though Victorino did his job and hit it to the right side.
I know, that's a matter of everyone did everything right, and it didn't work out for the Phillies as Victorino pulled that ball to the second baseman, but hit it so sharply that Rollins had to freeze.
There's a break for Maine. 1 out, and here's Chase Utley. Utley's 7th in the league in batting with that .317 average and leading the league in base hits with 164. So you got a guy on second base and a guy at the plate, both of whom within the last year have had hitting streaks of 35 games or more.
Jeez. Just don't see if that happens in a lifetime for a team. That's a lot.
And the curveball misses high. Meanwhile, the Houston Astros, Willie Taveras, now has a 30-game hitting streak going, one of the quietest hitting streaks in memory.
There's a guy that really was put on the bench in the middle of the season, forgotten about, and Houston just trying to score some runs, putting him back in the lineup, and he goes for 30.
And he's been doing it easily lately. He's had a base hit leading off the game each of the last 3 that the Astros have played, and they swept the Pirates over the weekend to try and get themselves back in the wild card race. They're 4 games out. Looked for a while as though that wild card was starting to spread out, but not anymore. 3-1 to Utley.
What a nice position for Chase Utley, right? As you see the wild card standings here with Philadelphia knocking on the door, San Diego, Cincinnati, how about Florida? 3 games out.
And even behind that now you've got 10 teams still within 5.5 games of the wild card lead. And Maine walks Utley, and there are 2 men on. So the Phillies trying to get off to a fast start with Ryan Howard coming up.
First baseman, number 6, Ryan Howard.
Well, here goes Geico Mets defense. 9 games now the Mets have not made an error, second longest streak in their history. Chavez in left field, of course, that great game on Saturday. And Green in right field. LaDuca, we talked about before, starting in the state game.
The only longest errorless streak in Mets history came in 1999. They went 12 straight games. That was the heralded infield. Mets made only 68 errors that whole season. Ryan Howard dribbles 1 foul.
Is that the Olerud, Ordonez, Alfonso, Ventura?
Right. They were on the cover of Sports Illustrated together under the title Best Infield Ever, ? They were pretty good. Ryan Howard leading the league in home runs with 46, RBIs with 121, and Maine gets ahead of him 0-2. Well, the Phillies revamped their team, and some of the guys who have remained have had monstrous months.
Howard's month.
Whew. Maine throws a fastball away. Well, Howard has homered in each of the first 2 games of this series, and they've both been big. 3-run homer, grand slam. And batting here with 2 men on. And Maine keeping the ball away from him 2-2.
It's very interesting to watch the Met pitchers pitch against Ryan Howard. Earlier in the season, really pounded him in, especially up and in with 2 strikes. Have not seen a lot of that this series. Maybe that's why he's had so much success.
Hit to deep left center field. Long run for Beltran back to the fence, and he has just enough room to make the catch. Rollins tags, heads to third. Beltran's throw arrives a shade too late. Howard almost had another one, but the ballpark just big enough to hold it for the second out.
Well, John Maine happy to be at Shea today, because if this was in Philadelphia, this would be a 3-run home run. Ball stayed in the park. Wind kind of knocked that one down. Also, nice play by Beltran. Utley went to second base, so he did not tag up, but Rollins doing a nice job. Realizes the ball's going to stay in the park. Tags up and gets to third.
That's the second one in this series that Howard has lost to the wind. He hit one off Brian Bannister in the first inning on Friday night that would have gone out except for the wind blowing in, as it has been this entire series. Here's Pat Burrell, and he fouls one off his leg. Carlos Delgado also lost one to the wind on Saturday night. This is really an April wind blowing here at Shea Stadium. Normally this time of year you don't get the wind blowing in. It didn't blow in August when you were pitching, did it?
No. No, but April was nice to pitch here. Of course, the flag at half mast today. New York City lost one of its finest yesterday in a fire.
0-2 to Burrell. Burrell's status with his team has changed drastically. He is no longer considered the linchpin franchise player. And he's settled into something of a part-time role recently. He's been battling a sore wrist. That's part of it, but it's not all of it.
No.
Construction crew working hard this morning, now getting a chance to watch a little of the game. And Burrell bounces one to the hole. Reyes on the backhand. Can he get the force? He can. Side retired. That saved a run. Close play at second base, but Reyes with that gun gets the force on Utley to end the inning. "43-year-old Jamie Moyer. He's so old he wears stirrups." Here's the Chevy Mets lineup he'll face. A little different than the one that was posted yesterday, and that Paul LaDuca was supposed to rest, but he's back in there. Andy Chavez hits 8th. And Jose Reyes leads off against Moyer and hits the fastball to left, but right at Burrell. 1 pitch and 1 out. 83-mile-an-hour fastball from Jamie Moyer, and that's about where he lives these days.
83 with that, around 75 with that changeup. He has a big hook that he'll throw to kind of a get-me-over strike against left-handers, of course. He'll use it as a strikeout pitch.
Jamie Moyer first came up with the Cubs in 1988, and it didn't look like his major league career was going to last very long. I said 88, I meant 86 was his rookie year with the Cubs, as Paul LaDuca takes a strike. He struggled with Chicago. He went to Texas and then to the Cardinals, and they sent him to the minor leagues, and he never even pitched in the major leagues in 1992. But then he relearned how to pitch. Strike called to LaDuca. A guy named Buzz Campbell taught him how to remake himself. And from there, Moyer has gone on to a spectacular career, first with Baltimore, the Red Sox, and then Seattle. 1-2 to LaDuca.
I needed Buzz around 1994. I needed some help.
The last pitch at Shea with the Mariners 3 years ago, but before that, that's a long time ago. Mets actually faced Moyer last year, and he pitched a gem of a game against them at Safeco Field. 7 2/3 shutout innings in a 5-0 Seattle win. 2-2 to LaDuca, and he goes the other way right at Ryan Howard. 2 outs on line drives.
Well, nice play by Howard as a forward Phillies defense. Ryan Howard has really improved. We're talking to some of the Phillies officials to say that he has been working very hard in his defense. He's made a couple of nice plays already. Abraham Nunez at third base and Burrell in left, and Rollins and Utley to complete the infield.
So 2 out and nobody on. Here's Carlos Beltran, and he takes a strike. Beltran, 38 home runs to tie his career high. 108 RBIs also tie his career high. He's scored a run now in 9 straight games. He has just been doing everything. 1-2 to Carlos. Not happy with the call by Angel Hernandez, and you don't see Carlos talk to umpires very often.
Well, he knows it's important. If Jamie Moore is getting that much off the plate, it could make for a long day for the Mets.
And he misses inside with that fastball. 2-2. And now a full count to Beltran, with Carlos Delgado waiting on deck. 2 out and nobody on. Just getting started here. Early afternoon game at Shea before a small crowd. And Beltran pops it up. And Jimmy Rollins has it lined up. And Moyer's got himself a 1-2-3 opening inning. So Jamie Moyer with a fast start. It's a big day for the construction crew. Second inning, David DeLucci leads off against John Maine. DeLucci 0 for 3 in this series, but hitting .319 for the Phillies, and he has been spectacular since taking over for Bobby Abreu in right field.
Well, he had a spectacular year last year with the Texas Rangers, 29 home runs, so you know he has that kind of power.
was barely playing at all when they had Burrell, Rowand, and Abreu playing every day in that Philly outfield. On the inside corner, strike 3 called, and Angel Hernandez has let it be known today that he's going to have himself a getaway day strike zone.
This is called swing the bats, gentlemen, because they're going to call him early and often. This ball, fastball inside. That was, I think, a strike. The pitch before was the one to change up down. I think Lucci had problems with.
So 1 out and nobody on. And here's Chris Coast, and he takes a strike. And Chris Coast's magical run has been the stuff of legends. His second book is coming out this year. It's called Roller Coaster, in deference to his name and his career. But this year it's been all climbing on the coaster. 1 and 2.
To see what Coast did right then? Smelling the bat. Occasionally when you have a ball and you foul it off, it'll cause like a almost, it'll smell like burning wood, which is wild. And hitters always smell the bat after something like that. See him?
It's like blowing on your gun.
That's right.
2-2 to Coast. A little dribbler foul. And LaDuca making sure that does not spin back into fair territory. Now here we are. It's an early day game. Everybody's kind of lethargic. And there's LaDuca going the extra mile, chasing that ball 40 feet up the line just on the off chance it might spin fair.
He was taught how to play the game right. He doesn't know any other way. Sorry I had that little moan there, but there are 2 young children sitting in the front row, and it always scares me to death when you have those kind of foul balls.
Ball skipped right over the top of the dugout, and Coast pulls 1 foul. Maine throws a curveball and misses, and so far he hasn't had much luck with that pitch. Kid in the front row took a little shot in the shoulder, but he appears to be all right.
He's trying to do his best Paul LaDuca. Shake it off.
Coast pops it up, and that'll make it into the crowd. Chris Coast has been the backup to Mike Lieberthal. Lieberthal's got a little wonky back right now. Lieberthal's already spent a couple of stints on the disabled list this year. Let's go down to Chris Cotter. He's down near where that line drive skipped into the stands.
Yeah, it did catch this young man in the arm, and he's being looked after right now by the medical staff here, EMS staff at Shea. But the one thing he has going for him is that pain is temporary. A lot of these Mets here on the front step of the dugout, including Sandy Alomar, took note of that, and I'm sure the gifts will be forthcoming. They always bring bats and batting gloves and balls and everything like that when a kid gets hit here close to the dugout. So he'll be all right in a bit.
Little bloop, and Reyes is there. So on the 11th pitch of the at-bat, Maine finally overcomes Chris Coast, and that's the 2nd out.
Third baseman, number 3, Abraham Nunez.
So 2 out and nobody on. What about playing in a game like this, Ronnie? You can feel the lack of energy right now in the ballpark. How tough is it to get up for a game like this?
Easy for the starting pitcher, because you're always, there's one way to do it, and so that's a good thing in a way. I used to always try to play mind games with myself and say, hey, listen, no one wants to play this game, as we see the young man who was hit. A brave young man who was hit.
He is being very brave.
But I used to try to play mind games with myself, saying no one wants to play in this game. No one wants to be here. So you can use it as a pitcher to your advantage. Throw some strikes early and often. Try to get through the lineup as quickly as you can, at least the first time through.
2-1 to Nunez. John Maine trying for his 4th win. He's 3-0 over his last 6 starts. Even though in his last start he gave up 7 runs in 5 innings. That's one of the luxuries of playing for an offensive powerhouse. Sometimes you don't get losses in those games. 3-2 to Nunez.
You know, Gary, I think the other key for the starting pitcher anyways is you want to get up as early as you can, start your day going, get to the ballpark, just get those juices flowing so that when 12 o'clock comes, it doesn't kind of surprise you and you're ready to go.
Little awkward swing, and Maine's got it. That retires the side. So John Maine throws up a 1-2-3 inning. Good start for Maine. He and Moyer in a scoreless game.
20th anniversary celebration.
Carlos Delgado leads off the home second inning for New York. Carlos with 7 home runs in his last 9 games. 33 for the year, matching his total from last year when he played with Florida. And he has got some outrageous numbers against Jamie Moyer. He's had 7 home runs in his career against Moyer in 54 at-bats. And he's hitting .444 against him.
Jamie Moyer, you get a crick in your neck when Delgado comes up to the plate. Used to watching those long fly balls go over the fence.
There are the numbers. And there's one toward the gap in right center. Toward the wall, and it's short of the wall. Played on a hop by Victorino. Delgado hustling into second base with a double. Well, he didn't have enough arc on that ball to get it out of the ballpark, but he scorched one against Moyer, and he just continues to own Jamie Moyer.
He hit it so hard that he had to hustle into second base and try to get it in there for a double. Shane Victorino plays it perfectly off the wall with that good arm, but I'll tell you that there were many players that had my number. And when you're facing a guy that has your number, you know it, he knows it, he knows that you know it, and it's a ballpark knows it. So it's a hard.
Well, the Mets will try and cash that in. David Wright trying to work his way out of a slump. And he takes ball 1.
And it's not, it happens in different ways. Sometimes you make your pitch and they get a hit. Sometimes you make the perfect pitches and they somehow fight it off for a hit. Just guys that have your number, it just always comes up that way.
And doesn't it often happen too as a pitcher that if you're trying to make a perfect pitch, that's the time when you don't and you make the mistake?
It ends up right down the middle. I know Tony Gwynn almost hit 500 now off in his career off me.
But he hit 400 against everybody, so that's no shame.
John Olerud, the former Met, of course, when he was Seattle, owned me. Toronto, he owned me. Didn't matter what uniform he had on, he owned me. One game in the Sky Dome, he was 4 for 4. He came up in the 9th, and I had a shutout going. 4 for 4 during the game. And Walt Weiss, the shortstop, came in. I said, Walt, what should I do? He goes, if I were you, I'd just take it and throw it in the gap. That way, at least you can keep him in the ballpark. I said, I think you're right.
In general, did you find that the contact guys or the power guys were more difficult?
Always the contact guys, because they would take that split finger or curveball in the dirt.
Wright goes along the right field line. DeLucci near the stands, and he can't get to it. Foul ball. That is not an easy area of the ballpark to pursue a baseball.
And the wind started blowing that back in play as DeLucci could not come up with it.
That ball was playable, but he just got a little shy over near that sidewall. Dave DeLucci has never been known as a defensive player.
His strength is his offense. That's what gets him in the lineup.
You got that sidewall there, and the angles are a little bit different in certain areas. Wright pops it up. And David's struggles continue. Utley battling the wind, and he stays with it. That's the first out. So Wright now hitless in his last 10 at bats.
Right fielder, number 20.
Well, you may have heard that this September the WB11 is changing into the new CW11. So what does that mean to fans of the WB11 news? Well, the name of the station may be changing, but the CW11 will still be the place to find your favorite news shows in the morning and at night. They're changing moment by moment.
You know, I mentioned before, flag at half-mast. New York lost one of its bravest, of course, Michael C. Riley, and all of our thoughts and prayers, of course, go out to the Riley family.
Incredibly difficult job. Brave men and women. Here's Sean Green, and Sean takes ball 1. Mets will be going to Denver tomorrow, and we haven't been in Denver this year, but Sean Green has. In fact, he's played 3 series there this year with the Diamondbacks. And I was curious to ask him, what it's like there, because the game has now changed at Coors Field. It's not the world's largest pinball machine anymore. And he said it's amazing. He said fly ball comes off the bat, it's like you're in a normal ballpark.
Wow.
That because of the humidor, the ball doesn't have that little extra giddy up to fly over the outfielder's head the way it used to. I asked him if he noticed difference in pitchers breaking balls, because that's the other factor that would change with a more normal baseball. He said it's a little harder for him to tell, but he could definitely tell the flight of the ball was very different. And the home run swing on the fastball, 2-1.
And that allows, you and I were talking about it before, for those outfielders, if they choose to play in a little bit, because it wasn't only the home runs that hurt you at Coors Field. The outfielders played so deep that every base hit, every broken bat would be a base hit in the outfield.
And I asked Sean about that, and he said it's a mixed bag. He said the Rockies outfielders are playing much more shallow. He said, but you can't play too shallow because the gaps are so big there. Ball gets by you, it's rolling forever. And that's an automatic triple in the gap at Coors Field because it is so huge.
If I'd have known that, I would have turned my extra locker that I always had here with Charlie Samuels into a humidor. I would have kept my game balls in there when the game started here. We're using this batch.
Well, the thing is, it's humid enough here that I'm not sure you would need that. Now, you know, some players have said upon going to Coors Field this year that they've gone overboard in making those balls less dry and less tight and hard. Jeff Cirillo called the balls waterlogged.
Did any of the pitchers make that comment?
I'm sure not. Mike Dejean said that the balls were a little squishier, but he was very happy with that. Delgado at second and 1 out. Mets trying to get the early lead here in the bottom of the second. 2-2 to Green. A little tapper. Moyer off the mound. And throws out Green, 2 away. Delgado over to third.
You know, when you Chris Coast, of course, with Delgado on second, he will give a variety of signs. What you'll do as he touches the mask, what he's doing now is letting Moyer know what sign he's going to use. What does that mean? Well, he's saying I'm either going to go first sign, second sign, third sign, or sign after 2. The first sign might be the indicator. So say I give 5 signs, and then I go 2, 1, 2. Well, that means that the indicator was 2. The second sign is a curveball. That's what he's going to be throwing.
Now, it's one thing if you have Jamie Moyer on the mound, who's been around since they've started playing baseball.
And he has 840 pitches.
But you get a young, excitable pitcher on the mound. Is it hard for them to remember what the indicator is and how many signs after the indicator? Chris Woodward takes a strike.
The younger the pitcher, the easier it is to steal the signs because you try to keep it simple. The catchers try to keep it simple. Usually it's first or second sign with a young pitcher because you don't want him to have to wait out there on the mound to go through a whole variety of signs.
And Woodward takes a strike.
With a guy like Moyer, it'll be more complex, of course. And you can do it a lot of different ways. Sometimes when I had a catcher who was young, or when Mackie Sasser caught here, I didn't really, I don't know how to say it nice, didn't really enjoy the way he would call a game. So what I would do is I'd call the pitches from the mound. So I told him if my glove is a certain way, I'm coming with a curveball. If I look straight at you, if I catch your eyes, it'll be a fastball, stuff like that.
Wow. Andy Chavez on deck. Delgado at third and 2 out. Woodward getting the start at second base today. 4 for 9 over his last 3 games. 2-2 to Woody. I mean, I've heard of pitchers calling their own games, but I never heard of pitchers giving signs to the catcher to call their own games. And Woodward checks his swing 3-2.
Well, for Mackie, it would take him too long to go through the signs, and I like to work quickly, so that's why we did it. And like in between pitches here, I'd look at Mackie and I'd point my head to inside corner. He knows I want a fastball in while the hitter's not looking.
Hope.
You hope. Well, that's why I gave up those line drives.
And Woodward strikes out on the changeup. And Jamie Moyer, who's frustrated many hitters in his time, gets Woodward with that changeup for his first strikeout of the day, and the Mets waste a leadoff double. Third inning, Jamie Moyer leads off against John Maine. And that didn't go where he wanted it to. Moyer has not swung the bat all that much over the course of his long career, 180 at bats in 20-some years. He fits right in with a Philadelphia pitching staff that has been the worst hitting pitching staff in the National League. And over the course of a season, it does make a difference when you play in the National League.
Well, not only have they not hit well, but they also are last in sacrifice hits, so that's not good either.
Over the mound, Woodward with time. And Moyer just jogging down to first, thrown out by Woodward, one away.
And I'm not surprised, you know, Jamie Moyer, of course, has not got a lot of bats. John Lieber has proven that he's not a very good hitter. But
the shortstop,
you know, Brett Myers,
Jimmy Rollins,
is. I've seen him take batting practice. He hits ball after ball over the fence. So I'm surprised he didn't get more hits.
The only really good hitting pitcher on the Phillies team is Randy Wolf, but he hasn't played that much this year. He's only made 6 starts. 1 out and nobody on. Here's Jimmy Rollins, who led off the game with a double to the gap in right center, but he only got as far as third. Each team's had a leadoff double wasted in this game. And Maine throws the fastball outside. Maine is facing the Phillies for the 3rd time in the month of August. He's already beaten them twice. He threw 6 shutout innings against the Phillies here on the 6th of August, and then won a 7-2 game on the 17th of August in Philadelphia. The last time a National League pitcher beat one team 3 times in the same calendar month, you got to go back to 1965, when Ray Culp of the Phillies beat the Braves 3 times in September of '65. To center field, and Beltran coming in as the wind grabs it, and Rollins retired 2 away. Now, of course, it's pretty quirky for a team to be playing 3 series against the same team in a calendar month, but that's 41 years.
The center fielder, Shane Victorino.
A chance to do something that's not been done in the National League in that long.
Ray Culp, one of my heroes when I was a kid.
Really?
He played for the Red Sox. Yes.
Didn't know you were that old.
I am.
When did Culp? Early 70s he was with the Red Sox?
Yes.
All right. Because I remember him more as a National Leaguer.
Yes, of course, with the Cardinals.
And the Phillies. Victorino grounded out his first time up. And Maine falls behind him 2-0. Get your Mets season ticket pack to guarantee your seats for all 15 September home games and secure a ticket purchase option for all 2006 postseason games at Shea. Go to Mets.com. Victorino pulls one through the hole, and the Phillies have a 2-out hit, just their 2nd of the game off John Maine. And so Victorino aboard at first with 2 out for Utley.
Second
You're
baseman,
talking about their different looks as Chase Utley comes to the plate. Victorino looks like one of those players that is under the radar, but all he does is get base hits, makes good plays in the outfield, makes the proper throw. Shea Victorino, very well schooled.
And the thing about Victorino is he spent a long time in the minor leagues in the Dodger organization. He was twice taken in the Rule 5 draft, once by San Diego and once by the Phillies. First time he was returned. And the knock on Victorino was he was very fast, could play the outfield, but he couldn't hit. But he's made adjustments over the last few years to become a positive offensive player, a guy who could take advantage of all his speed.
Well, he made himself better. He became the International League Player of the Year. Went down and worked on his game. And a lot of times there's a lot of Shane Victorinos in baseball, and all they need is a shot, and he's gotten his.
1-0 to Utley, who walked his first time. Victorino runs, and Utley pops it up. And David Wright has the play. Side retired. But John Maine continues to roll. 3 shutout innings to start his day at Shea. Jamie Moyer takes the mound for the bottom of the 3rd. Andy Chavez leads off for the Mets. Andy coming off a 4-for-4 night on Saturday night to get that average up to 307. And the third baseman Nunez playing right on top of him.
Well, the Phillies and Nunez have been watching the skills of Endy Chavez and his ability to bunt, so just going to really take it away from him. The only way he could really bunt for a base hit is bring it along with him to first base.
Endy's been so good, though, at slapping the ball through the left side. It's almost like Nunez is taking his life in his hands.
Taking his life in his hands, and also if Moyer chooses to pitch Chavez away, very hard to react on any kind of ball at him.
I mean, he's playing closer than you normally do in a sacrifice situation. And he goes that way right through the hole. Well, Endy has done everything right this year.
Well, trying to go inside with the fastball. He leaves it over the middle of the plate. And Chavez, you could tell by the swing before that, he was just trying to hit a hard ground ball to that left side. He does a fantastic job of skipping it past Rollins.
Well, Nunez can stay right where he was because John Maine is up to bunt. Maine does not have a hit in his big league career. He's got 2 sacrifices this season. And Moyer, who hangs that leg like the crafty veteran lefty he is, checks in on Chavez.
Well, he knows that he's not going to have any problem with Maine. Maine is going to be bunting, so he can take his time, lift his leg, and go to first. 2 things happen. One, let Chavez stay closer to first in case he can try to get the out at second. And secondly, it lets his defense know if John Maine turns around too early, he'll let the defense know that it certainly is bunting.
Maine not disguising his intentions. Fair ball. Coast looking at second, throws there, but off the bag comes Rollins and everybody's safe. No, the ball was only inches in front of the plate, so Coast had a good idea, but with Chavez's speed, he had to make a great throw, and he didn't.
Well, the ball runs up the line as he tries to throw this on the run. Rollins could not stay on the bag. Well, you just hate to see this. As a pitcher, as a defense, you want to get an out in that situation. Chavez just has so much speed. It makes you appreciate Paul Lo Duca, doesn't it? And how quickly he gets out from behind the plate and makes plays. Coast a little slower.
It'll be an error all the way, no sacrifice. Because a good throw would have had him at second, so the Mets have first and second and nobody out for Reyes, and let's see if he's bunting. He drops one down. It'll be tough to get him. Coast makes the throw, not in time, and the bases are loaded. Well, anytime Reyes drops a bunt down, even in a sacrifice situation, it's going to be hard to get him, and Coast couldn't.
You know, in a situation where you know that he's probably going to be bunting, he is so fast and so good now at deadening this ball that he turns it into a base hit and possibly a big inning for the Mets.
So the threat of a bunt and then 2 bunts have loaded the bases for the Mets with nobody out. And now Lo Duca, who will not be bunting. Lined out to the first baseman his first trip. The infield back at double play depth. And Lo Duca fouls it back. Paul seems to be swinging at more first pitches lately.
Especially when people are on base. He will take, when guys are on second and third, he will take pitches when Reyes is at first base, trying to get him a chance to steal. But in RBI situations, he's very aggressive.
Lo Duca with 38 RBIs for the year. Chavez at third, Maine at second, Reyes at first, and nobody out. Mets trying to get on the board here in the third. And Moyer misses inside. 1-1.
You know, Gary, that was something as a pitcher I always wanted to know. Who swings when they're in RBI situations at the first pitch? Very important for a starting pitcher to know.
Lo Duca goes the other way, right by Howard and into right field. Chavez scores. Maine will be held 1-0 New York. And clearly Reyes distracted Howard, standing right in front of him as Howard tried to field that shot down to first base. Lo Duca drives on the run, 1-0 New York.
Well, Reyes does a good job of, like you said, shielding Howard. He had no chance. That's like someone standing in the crease in hockey. And Ryan Howard, the goalie, had no chance at that. And John Maine coming off second base. Not a lot of speed. Probably could have scored it a little more speed, but Base is still loaded.
So LaDuca drives in his 39th run. Base is still loaded, still nobody out, and Carlos Beltran, who has 3 grand slams this year, will step in. The Mets have certainly played small ball to perfection in this inning. Chavez slapping one with Nunez drawn in. The 2 bunts, and then Reyes with the great base running to help LaDuca get that base hit. Maine at third, Reyes at second, LaDuca at first, and still nobody out. And the breaking ball misses low, 2-0. A little sun trying to push its way through the clouds. Not quite making it. Certainly has rained on Jamie Moyer's day here in the third. Beltran down to third. Nunez will come home and get the force, and that's all. John Maine was not exactly sure what to do. A unique experience for him, standing on third base.
We'll watch Maine as he, should I go? Should I go back? No, I have to go. The bases are loaded. That's right.
That's right. Of course. Well, that's the first out. Bases remain loaded for Delgado. And Delgado drove a double to the gap in right center against Moyer, who has never had an easy time getting him out.
Isn't it interesting that Chase Utley, the young second baseman, is the guy who comes in to speak to Moyer and the coast, settle everyone down, probably let everyone know, hey, we get a ground ball here, we can get out of the inning. Utley taking a bigger role since Abreu's gone.
And you talk to people around the Phillies, they say he's always had leadership qualities, but with Abreu and Bell leaving, he's been able to step forward a lot more over the last few weeks. So here's Delgado with the bases full against a guy he's owned. 7 career home runs against Moyer. And he's got no place to put him. And Moyer behind, 2-0. Delgado seems to have a really good read on Moyer's changeup.
Sometimes, you know, hitters have it. They know the idiosyncrasies of a pitcher, know that he tips his pitches.
Back up the middle, off the glove of Utley, base hit. Reyes scores. LaDuca heading home. He'll score. Beltran into third. It's a 2-run single for Carlos Delgado. 3-0 New York. RBIs number 92 and 93 for Delgado.
Well, sometimes what happens to a pitcher that he owns, Delgado had an infield, had to play him straight up, so he didn't have the shortstop on the other side of second base, so could not make that play. And Paul LaDuca getting on his horse, scoring that 3rd run for the Mets.
Ball slowed down so much coming off Utley's glove that enabled LaDuca to score easily. Reyes, meanwhile, scores his 106th run of the year, and the Mets have 3 runs home in the 3rd against Moyer. And Rich Doobie, the pitching coach, out for a conversation with the entire Philadelphia infield. It's like a board meeting. Well, you go back to the sacrifice bunt that did not produce an out, and that changes the character of the inning.
Have to get an out. The team is giving you an out. You have to get it. This is how big innings start, and this is why the Phillies have had this rough go of it here in the 3rd.
1st and 3rd, still only 1 out. Here's David Wright, who popped up his first time up. David now 0 for his last 10, 2 for his last 26. And no matter what theory you have about David's slump, David says there are none. Just got to fight through it. It's not the home run derby. It's not too many appearances. It's not getting enough sleep. It's not working too hard.
Not the contract.
Not the contract. Just not hitting right now. Moyer behind him, 2-0. To third. Off the bag. No. The angle that took, it certainly looked like it hit the bag, but the third base umpire, Randy Marsh, says no, it hit something else and was a foul ball. The way that ball reacted, you assumed it hit the bag, but Randy said no.
Well, the only way it could go left like that is a spike mark, and there's always a lot of spike marks there. I don't think it hit the bag, and I think Randy Marsh got it right.
I think you're right, too. I mean, normally with that kind of sharp left turn, you figure it clipped the side of the bag. Now,
well, the umpires can get together, but I'm trying to think, what would they do? A ground rule double?
Well, the only other umpire who would have had a view of it would have been the home plate umpire. There's no way that the first or second base umpires could have seen.
As you see the ball, it looks like it misses the bag, but it's very hard to tell, of course, and we get to see it 100 times. Randy Marsh only once, but I like this. The umpires, when they get together, I think this is always great. Talking about it, trying to get it right.
Yeah, if they did overrule it, they'd have to call it a ground rule double. That was very funny the way that ball reacted. It took a sharp left turn.
Be interesting.
And of course, if it hits the bag, it's a fair ball because the entire base is in fair territory.
See, even the umpires put their hands over their face when they were talking. You know, the guys with the gloves.
Because they don't like people like us reading their lips.
Right.
And Charlie Manuel wants to know what's going on.
Because he is going to go into a rage if they go against them.
Could you imagine if they now call this a fair ball? I'm not sure I've ever seen a call like that overruled. Now, I've seen fair foul on a home run overruled, but as far as a play like that around a base,
I've never seen it. I've never seen him overrule that. And just Randy Marsh speaking to Charlie Manuel lets me feel like they're going to change this decision.
Well, if so, they haven't told Willie, because he still doesn't look happy.
By the way, David Wright will take a fair ball here.
Oh, my. You talk about a slump buster. That would be a slump buster, to have the umpires change their decision. David Wright hit the ball, and it got to the third base bag and took a sharp left turn, making you think that it hit the base. But Randy Marsh, who was right on top of the play, said foul ball, which means that it didn't hit the base.
Well, it looked like he saw some space between the ball and the bag. But I think even a spike mark would be very difficult for a ball hit that hard to veer off that quick to left.
Well, Randy Marsh and Charlie Manuel are still talking. They have not moved the base runners or told David Wright to go anywhere. Let's look at it again at full speed. I mean, that kangaroo bounce like that, it's hard to believe that it could bounce like that without hitting the base.
Well, you know, when you hit a change
and Charlie Manuel just got thrown out of the game for the second time in this series. Now David is being sent down to first base.
This is like a video game.
This is really bizarre and really befitting a makeup game early on a Monday afternoon. But David Wright, who had his ball called foul, is going to first, and now Carlos Beltran is crossing home plate. And the Mets apparently have just scored another run about 7 minutes after David Wright hit what is now a base hit.
Well, it took the Phillies a long time to get that ball in. Now
where are they putting the base runs? Apparently Wright's going to first. I guess Delgado will go to second. It's a ground rule after the fact single for Wright, apparently.
Well, change up, a lot of top spin, and can't see it there. Hard call for Randy Marsh, but they're changing it up, and obviously one of the umpires, probably Angel Hernandez, saw it, but once it changes direction like that, you have to believe that it hit the bag, and the umpires got it right, and Charlie Manuel's still not happy.
Well, again, the only umpire who could have seen it well enough to overrule it would have been the home plate umpire, Angel Hernandez. Which, if so, it's the first controversial call Angels ever called in favor of the Mets. Because the second and first base umpires just don't have any kind of angle to make that kind of call. Charlie Manuel, meanwhile, has been ejected. Gary Varsho, his bench coach, who now has a new number today, by the way, will get the lineup card. Gary's wearing a jacket. You can't see it, but he was wearing number 19 until today. Jeff Conine, acquired last night by the Phillies, has always worn number 19. So he got that, and Varsho changed to number 30, and now he's got the lineup card. So it goes in the books as an RBI single for David Wright. And again, can you think of a better slump buster than that? 4 runs are home for the Mets. They have a 4-0 lead. Here's Sean Green, and we'll see how Jamie Moyer fares after this delay. Well, that's one for the books. Green, the 8th man up in the inning. And he rips one foul.
Well, Gary, you watch this game long enough, right? You'll always see stuff you've never seen before. This case of watching that ball carom off the bag, never seen a base hit recalled like that.
I just wonder what Randy was thinking at the time, what he thought he saw. I mean, there had to have been a rock there for it to carom that way. I mean, you said spike mark, and yeah, the ball can change direction on a spike mark, but not like that.
Not like that. It obviously hit the bag, and I think what happens is sometimes you premeditatively call a foul or fair ball, and he just didn't wait long enough. If he would have called it a fair.
And give Randy credit. He's been around a long time, and he huddled with his fellow umpires, and they got it right.
And I think the only reason he did huddle is because after he made the call, he had to think to himself, uh-oh, that ball hit the bag. I made a mistake. How am I going to get out of this? And to his credit, he got the call right.
I wonder whether sometime between the time he made the call and the time Willie Randolph got to him, if Angel Hernandez kind of signaled to him to say, we better talk about it.
Yeah.
Because the guy who makes the call generally has to call the meeting. Because if his fellow umpires, even if they think they might have it differently, if the guy who made the call doesn't call the meeting, they usually stay away from the situation.
You know, similar circumstances on a check swing. If the home plate umpire jumps out and asks for the call, usually that umpire might ring him up. But if he doesn't, takes a while, it's always safe.
Driven to deep right field. Back goes to Lucci near the wall, and it's a one-hopper against the fence. Delgado will score. Here comes Wright. He'll be held at third. It's an RBI double for Sean Green, and the Mets have 5 runs home here in the bottom of the third. So Sean Green, who had a 2-run double in the game Saturday night, this time hooks a double to the right field fence to drive in his 55th run of the year.
Well, he had to go down and get that pitch. Nice hitting by Green. Able to bend those knees, still have a level swing on that pitch, almost below his knees. You can see Delgado reads it off the bat. He knows he's going to score easily.
5 runs home, still only 1 out. The infield comes in for Woodward, and he hits one in the air to center. That should get a run home as Wright tags. Victorino's got it. Wright heads home. The throw goes to third. Sacrifice fly for Woodward. 6-0 New York. And another big inning for the New York Mets. A 7-run inning on Saturday night, and now a 6-run inning this afternoon.
Well, Gary, Woodward got that time to play when Valentin was nursing that sore hamstring, and I think it's really helped his swing. Good at bat here, of course. Even with that big lead, you're not trying to do too much. Make sure you hit a fly ball. Woodward did, and another run for the Mets.
Well, here's Andy Chavez, who led off the inning by slapping a single through the left side, and this time Abraham Nunez isn't playing nearly as close as he did the last time. Of course, it wouldn't make any sense to bunt for a hit here with the pitcher on deck. And Chavez takes the curveball for a strike. Andy now with 5 straight hits. 4 for 4 Saturday night, and a base hit today. Utley to his right as the backhand play in the inning finally comes to an end, but 10 men came to bat for the Mets. 6 runs on 6 hits and 1 huge error, 1 ejection, and a 6-0 lead.
First baseman
As we go to the fourth inning, it's been weather fit for Ducks lately. The Aflac trivia question: Ryan Howard, 7 home runs against the Mets this season. Who was the last player to hit more than 7 home runs against the Mets in a season? And as it happens, Mr. Howard leads off in the fourth inning after having nearly hit his 8th. He hit one to the fence in deep left center his first time up. And John Maine, now working with a 6-run lead, throws a strike. What a strange inning for the Mets.
Wow.
Including one of the more unique call reversals we've ever seen, as Howard singles to right, leading off the inning. The third hit off John Maine. Again, you see every once in a while an umpiring crew overrule a fair foul call on a home run or no home run call.
Yes.
But a call at a base on fair and foul, that's a first for me.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Pat Burrell takes ball 1.
And I think you're right, Gary. I think that Angel Hernandez, Randy might have looked at him, and Angel might have said, you know, with a shake of his head, it did hit it, you know.
Burrell launches one to deep left center field. Beltran back, looking up at the wall, and it's out of here. Pat Burrell hits his 36th career home run against the New York Mets. His 24th of this season, and that cuts the Mets' lead to 6-2. Well, Burrell has been something of an outcast with this Philadelphia team lately,
Right fielder, David Wright.
but he still knows how to hit home runs against the Mets. Here's David DeLucci, and he takes a strike.
Well, this pitch right down Broadway. It's supposed to be inside to Burrell. Maine left it over the middle of the plate. And as he's done, as you said, 36 times now, home run for Pat Burrell.
0-2 to DeLucci. There are only 6 players in Mets history who have hit more home runs against the Mets than Pat Burrell. Now, Pat Burrell is in his 7th season. As DeLucci hits it to shallow center, and Chavez angling in from left, and that's the first out.
The catcher, Chris Coast.
You know, when you look at Burrell, one of the things you like about his swing is that extension he has. He really has that long follow through, and that's why he's able to hit with so much power. The problem is that also makes a long swing, so it's prone to lots of strikeouts.
Here's Chris Coast, and he hits one foul. The 6 players who have more home runs against the Mets than Pat Burrell: Willie Stargell, who played against them for 20 years. Mike Schmidt, who played against them for 18 years. As Coast hits one foul. Willie McCovey, who played against the Mets for 18 years. Hank Aaron, 13 years. Willie Mays, 11 years. Barry Bonds, 20 years. All those players either in or going to the Hall of Fame. And then you've got Pat Burrell in his 7th year, who's had a nice career, but really hasn't dominated against the rest of the league the way he has against the Mets. And he's hit 36 home runs against them in 7 years. 2-2 to Coast. Slow ground ball, tough play for Wright. Makes the bare hand play, but in time. Oh boy. From here, it certainly looked as though Coast had beaten it out, but the first base umpire Hunter Wendelstedt said no.
Well, by the eye, it looked like he was safe easily, and he was. I mean, that ball bounced in the dirt, and once it bounced, he touches the bag. Watch it bounce, he touches the bag before he scoops it.
Abraham Nunez.
Now, well, bad break for Chris Coast there.
And a really nice play by David Wright. Made the bare hand play perfectly, and despite the one-hop throw, officially got Coast at first base.
You made your point already, all right?
Of course, Charlie Manuel's already been ejected.
He knows what I'm talking to. That's enough.
And apparently a little heat is coming from that Philadelphia dugout because Angel Hernandez just pointed in there and told somebody to be quiet. Oh, and 2 to Nunez.
What's the line of succession for the Phillies if Marshall gets thrown out?
I think it's the Secretary of State.
I always thought it was the Speaker of the House.
There you go. I'm in charge here. To shallow center field, and Beltran eases under it, and that retires the side. Phillies get a little closer on Pat Burrell's 2-run homer. But John Maine still has himself a 4-run lead despite Pat the Bat hitting his 36th against the Mets. John Maine leads off the home 4th inning. Maine was right in the middle of the Mets' 6-run 3rd. Dropped down to sacrifice bunt. At least that was the intention. Chris Coast threw to second to try and get Endy Chavez. Threw a little wide. And the Mets were off and running in their big inning. And Maine still looking for his first big league hit. 0 for 17 now as he takes a strike. John Maine, a chemical engineering major at UNC Charlotte. Said it seemed like the thing to do at the time. And he's called out on strikes. That's the first out.
The shortstop,
As we check out our subway around the majors, the White Sox avoided the sweep against the Twins yesterday, behind good pitching by Mark Burley for a change.
Yeah.
Phillies got Jeff Conine to add to their bench, and the Marlins won their 7th straight. They are now just 3 games off the wild card pace after sweeping the Brewers, or sweeping the first 3 games of the series from the Brewers. They'll actually finish that series tonight. 1-0 to Jose Reyes, who's 1 for 2. Over the weekend, the Marlins continued to play brilliantly, but the owner, Jeffrey Loria, refused to give a vote of confidence to the manager, Joe Girardi.
It's a real contest over there between those two, Loria and Girardi.
Well, you know who wins.
Yeah. Guy who writes the checks is the guy who usually wins.
I mean, they could both end up the winner, because if Girardi is let go after the season he's had, he'll have his choice of jobs. 3-0 to Reyes with Loduca on deck, and he takes a strike.
I think Girardi's had issues a couple times with Loria in the clubhouse. He's had issues with Loria arguing with the umpires.
And it even goes back to spring training when Girardi did not attend a team function, saying he wasn't in his contract that he had to do so, as Reyes lofts one to left, and that is not a good idea by Burrell, because here goes Reyes off to the races. He could circle it. Reyes to third. He's going to be held there by Manny Acta. Burrell's just not a good enough outfielder to make that play, and against Reyes, that's just suicide. And Reyes winds up with a triple, his 16th of the year.
Well, you appreciate, as a pitcher, guy going after the ball here, but it's just not a good play. Discretion, better part of valor when you're going against a guy like Reyes. Just playing a one hop, hold him to first. Try to come up with a play that Burrell usually can't make anyways, and a triple for Reyes.
So Reyes, 16 triples as he moves toward the coveted 20 triple plateau, one that is rarely attained these days. And he's at third with 1 out, so the infield has to come in for Loduca, who drove in a run with a base hit his first time up, his last time up, I should say, and he takes a strike. And Loduca's now hitting 7 straight games.
You know, part of being a good fielder is knowing what the situation is, having that in your head before the ball is hit to you. If you play that on one hop, you're hoping the left-hander, Moyer, can keep Reyes at first. You're a ground ball pitcher. You might get a ground ball from Loduca for a double play.
Reyes moving up on Lance Johnson's club record, trying to reach his own career high, which he set last year. Amazing that in 45 years, only 2 guys have ever had more than 10 triples in a year. Here's a strike, 1 and 2 to Loduca.
We've seen that a couple times with the Phillies this afternoon, haven't we? Chris Coast on the plate at second base. Maybe in his head he's got to know that it's got to be perfect for me to go after a guy with Chavez's speed. If not, let me make sure we get an out.
Moyer, who's not a strikeout pitcher, facing Loduca, who's not a strikeout hitter, in a spot where he needs a strikeout. So what to do? And he can't quite get on the same page with Coast about what the plan is. Take a look at the Jeep upcoming schedule. Mets begin a road trip tomorrow night in Denver. Steve Traxel opens that series. And it'll be Dave Williams on Wednesday night, and then probably Oliver Perez coming back Thursday night. And Tom Glavine hopes to start Friday night in Houston, although that's not locked in. Loduca toward the hole, past the drawn in infield, and that brings Reyes home to make it 7-2. He didn't hit it hard, but he found the space between Rollins and Nunez. Loduca's second hit and second RBI of the day. Reyes now with 107 runs scored, and it's 7-2.
Well, with the infield in, Nunez not able to get to this ball, although he was back a little bit, so that ball was well placed by Loduca between the shortstop and third baseman.
So that play by Burrell in left field looms larger, because even if Reyes gets a double out of that, if the ball falls in front of Burrell, the infield's in a different spot, and Loduca's ball is an out.
Yes.
Beltran is 0 for 2. But Carlos reached on a fielder's choice and then scored a run in the third. And Beltran has now scored 104 runs. I mean, you think about Reyes, 107 runs, but Beltran's right behind him. Of course, he's had a habit of driving himself in this year with his 38 home runs. And he drills one deep down the line, hooking, foul. A rifle shot, half a section foul. On the inside corner, and Beltran down looking. Third strikeout for Moyer. Now they're 2 away.
Well, fastball in. Jamie Moore, even though he doesn't throw hard, has the pitch inside. It gets Beltran looking.
If I'm Moyer, I might be walking Delgado here.
Yes.
Maybe a semi-intentional walk. Carlos is now 26 for 56 against Moyer with 7 home runs with his 2 for 2 today. Infield over shift. And Delgado pops it foul. And how about Jamie Moyer racing in to home plate to try to assist with the possible pop-up?
Well, he might be a pitcher, but he's a very good athlete, very fast, good fielder. And when you pitch like he does, ground balls, tries to get head in the count, you have to be a good fielder. You're going to get a lot of ground balls through the box.
So you're saying he could have played in his father-in-law's full-court press?
That's right.
He's married to the daughter of Digger Phelps. Great basketball coach at Notre Dame before he got into this business.
Pretty good at this business, too.
Good swing by Delgado. 0-2.
Good fastball inside. Moyer trying to change it up. Usually he goes after Delgado with breaking pitches so far, but now trying to throw fastballs in.
Got to try a different plan.
Yes. Plan
A isn't working. And he gets Delgado lunging, and he barely got a piece to keep the at-bat alive.
Just a little cutter on the outside corner. Almost caught by Coast.
That catcher catches that ball on the foul tip with just his glove. It's a third strike. If he uses any part of his body or equipment, it's not. And that's a third strike for Moyer, who winds up striking out 3 in the inning. But the Mets tack on a run, as Jose Reyes gets his 16th triple of the year, as Burrell couldn't make the play, and that wound up costing the Phillies a run. Mets today trying for their 80th win of the year, and they're up 7-2 as the Phillies come up in the 5th. Jamie Moyer will stay on to bat. Moyer's given up 7 runs, 5 of them earned in 4 innings, but Phillies need a little length out of him today. It's one right back to John Maine, and 1 easy out for Maine in the 5th inning. Well, we asked you the Aflac trivia question. How about we answer it? Ryan Howard, 7 home runs against the Mets this season, who was the last player to hit more than 7 against the Mets in a season. And it was a former Met, Dave Kingman, who hit 8 while with the Cubs in 1980. That figures. He had plenty of home runs here at Shea Stadium. For and against. The thing about Kingman is he hit the highest home runs I've ever seen. They would have gone over mountains, in addition to making it over the fence. Good breaking ball by Maine. 0-2 to Rollins.
Hit him just like the way he was built, tall.
Long and lean and powerful. Big hop for Woodward, and 2 easy outs for John Maine in the 5th inning. So 2 up and 2 set aside. Shane Victorino coming up. What did Dave Kingman and Mark McGwire have in common?
I don't know.
They were both pitchers at USC.
That's right.
The center fielder, Shane Victorino.
They may also have in common that neither one will be in the Hall of Fame. And that's going to be a very interesting question for the voters that comes up this winter, starting this winter, because, you know, it's not just a one-year affair with McGwire.
Well, McGwire's not going to get in this year for a couple of reasons. One, I think that there's a lot of voters who are not sure about him. And secondly, Ripken and Gwynn are both eligible this year, so they're going to get the majority of the votes.
Of course, a voter can vote for up to 10 different individuals, but you got to get 75% mentions from the baseball writers who are eligible to vote to get in. The thing about McGwire is that before the last 4 or 5 years of his career, nobody would have even considered him a Hall of Famer. It wasn't until he started to put up massive home run numbers. Bouncer to short, Reyes in. Makes the running play. Victorino down, and a 1-2-3 inning for John Maine on 3 ground balls. Halfway through at Shea, and it's 7-2 New York.
Matt Yaloff here at the SNY studios with your Baseball Day in New York update, brought to you by Chevrolet. The Yankees beat the Angels yesterday. 2 home runs by Derek Jeter, 2 for Bernie Williams. The Yankees take it 11-8 in Anaheim. They're back home tomorrow. Gary?
All right, thanks very much, Matt. Red Sox got swept in Seattle, helping the Yankees extend their lead to 6.5 games.
Well, Willie really enjoying that job that Maine came back after giving up that 2-run home run to Burrell. That inning posted up 3 ground balls.
1-1 to David Wright. Well, they're happy with Maine, and why wouldn't they be? He has been an absolute godsend for this team. Well, David Wright got a base hit in a very odd fashion his last time up. He hit what was originally ruled a foul ball, and about 7 minutes later was changed to a base hit. And perhaps that will get David going. Hit one right near the third base bag.
Well, we got the evidence, because watch this shot. You can see it bounce off the bag straight to the stands. And as soon as they changed that, you knew that Charlie Manuel was gone.
This one wide of third. Nunez with a little bobble, but still throws out right for the first down. Oh, if I were the manager and they changed that call, I certainly would make sure I got myself ejected, wouldn't you?
And it was interesting the way he was ejected, because he was just talking with Randy Marsh. And it might have been one of those conversations where guys have where, you know what, Randy, you changed the call, I got to get thrown out. I mean, this cannot happen.
Well, he was thrown out in the first game of the series. on Friday night. So he's 2 for 3.
And the first night he was really histrionic, yelling and screaming, but this one just everyone in the ballpark knew he had to get thrown out there.
Yeah, there wasn't as much yelling, but it's it's early.
Yeah. Yeah.
He obviously said the magic word, and Randy Marsh had no choice. 2-0 to Sean Green, who doubled in a run his last time. And what was that swing? That was on 2-0.
It's almost like he didn't see the pitch. Late reaction from Green. Just got jammed. That ball ran in on him.
And Moyer gets even. I was talking to Sean Green about his hat, because we've seen it I think 3 times now since he joined the Mets this week, where he's been chasing a fly ball and his hat flew off. And I said, what's the deal? He said, well, when I have a new hat, I get it one size larger because I know that I'm going to sweat and it's going to shrink. He said it didn't used to be as much of a problem when I had short hair, but he said now I have longer hair and it doesn't fit quite the same way. So new team, new hat, and the hat falls off. He said he's not doing it on purpose. I raised the specter of Willie Mays to him. You know how Mays used to wear his hat too small, perched on his head, so it would fall off every time he went after a fly ball. But that's not the case with Sean. He said, give me a few days, I'll get adjusted. Hits one to center field, hit well. Victorino back on the track. He runs it down. Great play by Shane Victorino. Boy, did he get back there. He was playing pretty shallow.
Well, he does. He plays about as shallow center field you'll see anyone in baseball. And the reason he can play that shallow is that ability, that speed, the ability to concentrate, and almost overran that ball as he caught it over his shoulder.
Well, Aaron Rowand out for the year with a broken ankle, as Woodward hits one toward the middle, and Victorino's done a nice job in his stead. Rollins throws out Woodward, and it's the 1-2-3 inning for Jamie Moyer. We played 5 in this makeup tilted Shea. Mets up by 5. Sixth inning, 7-2 New York. John Maine's retired 6 in a row since Pat Burrell's home run. And Chase Utley takes ball 1. Utley has walked and fouled out to third. Well, the Phillies came in a game over 500. They actually got to 2 games over as Utley fouls off the bunt attempt after they won their first 3 in Chicago last week. Lost the last game in Chicago. Now they've split the first 2 here, and they're a game over 500. But that's good enough to be just a game back. Now Cincinnati got swept over the weekend, which has knocked them 3 games back in the Central, but they're still able to sit atop that wild card lead. It's a real war of attrition. And Utley golfs one to center, and Beltran is under it. 1 away. That's 7 in a row retired by John Maine. Bring a group to Shea. Watch the Mets with family, friends, or community organizations. Choose ballpark seating or hospitality options like the picnic area. To plan your group day at Shea, call 718-507-TIXX. Here's Ryan Howard. Hit one of the center field fence that was caught and then singled and scored in front of Burrell's home run. And he goes to left field, and Chavez is there. 2 out. You know, I mentioned the Reds getting swept. They got swept by the Giants over the weekend. Matt Cain pitched a great game yesterday, and all of a sudden San Francisco is back in the race. They're only 2 games back in the wild card.
Which begs the question, there's a great race going on in the wild card, but are any of the teams any good? Because of their records and the way they've played, just a little bit over 500.
Well, what it means, and you know, we've seen everybody in the league now, and the Rockies were the last team we hadn't seen as Burrell takes ball 1. The Mets are so much better than everybody else in this league. They'll be heavily favored no matter whom they play in the first round and even in the league championship series. But as you well know, in those 5 and 7 game series, that doesn't necessarily mean you're automatically going to win.
And some of those teams get better, especially the teams that have trouble at the bottom of their rotation, number 4 and number 5. All of a sudden, a team like St. Louis, Chris Carpenter with 3 starts in a series, has to scare you.
2-1 to Burrell, and this was our Coors Light Cold Blast. Burrell has done this before at Shea Stadium. His 36th home run against the Mets. Lifts this one to right field, and Sean Green in and toward the line. And it's another 1-2-3 inning for John Maine, and he's now retired 9 in a row and in a good groove. Rolling with a 5-run lead as we go to the bottom of the 6th. Time to check out our Lincoln Mercury starting pitching lines. John Maine has had much the better of it today. Jamie Moyer, though, still in there pitching in the bottom of the 6th. And Andy Chavez takes ball 1. Andy 1 for 2 today. Both his at-bats came in the 3rd inning. Led it off and finished it off. Maine should be good to go for another inning. Chavez fouls it back. And Andy's been getting more and more at-bats against lefties, and he really hasn't been giving much away against lefties. He doesn't have an extra base hit this year against a lefty, but he's hitting over 300. Up the middle, and Utley on the backhand. Quick throw, and he got him at first. Nice play by Utley, 1 away. Well, makeup day at Shea Stadium, and the crafty veteran lefty Jamie Moyer unable to hold the Mets at bay. Mets put up 6. Pat Burrell got 2 back. David Wright got a strange hit, and the Mets have kept on swinging on a Monday afternoon at Shea like it's a regular day at the ballpark. It's 7-2 Mets as they bat in the 6th, and John Maine still looking for that elusive first big league hit.
Boy, I remember one year Ed Lynch, I think he had about an 0 for 30 working as a starting pitcher. Went to San Francisco, base hit to right field. They threw him out at first base.
We saw that happen to Jeff D'Amico here at Shea a few years back against the Braves. I remember who the right fielder was who threw him out at first base. Now I'm blanking on it. Oh, it was B.J. Surhoff threw him out at first. 1-2 to Maine. Remember a pitcher named Randy Tate?
Yes, I do.
Randy Tate once went 0 for 41.
Ouch. It's Jose Reyes. I was lucky. I got a base hit my first at bat.
Really?
Yeah, just a 72 hopper between third and short. I don't know how it got in the outfield, but it did.
So you were hitting 1,000 in the big leagues.
For about 25 minutes. That's about it.
The Mets once had a pitcher named Ray Searage. Remember the name?
Yes.
Pitched in Milwaukee, I think, a few other places.
I think I played against him in the minor leagues.
Ray Searage, in his Mets career, had 1 at bat, got a hit, had 1 decision, got a win. He retired a 1,000 pitcher and a 1,000 hitter as a New York Met. DeLucci has it lined up, and Maine's still looking for that first hit. 2 out. Checking out the Hyundai in-game box score. Mets did most of their damage in the 3rd. Reyes with another big day, another triple, another couple of runs scored. Ho-hum. Loduca's driven in a couple, as has Delgado against his personal whipping boy Jamie Moyer. Even David Wright chipping in with his changed ruling base hit that drove in a run. Well, here's Reyes, a bunt, single, and a triple today. Now has 107 runs scored, and he hits this one on a hop, and a nice pickup by Nunez to deny him a double. And that ends the inning. So Moyer able to give the Phillies 6 innings. And that certainly helps their bullpen, but it doesn't help the score.
Matt Yaloff here with a Chevrolet Baseball Day in New York update. This is Sunday, and A.J. Pierzynski against his former team. This is a 2-run shot for A.J. Pierzynski as the White Sox beat the Twins 6-1. They still trail Minnesota by a half game in that crazy AL wildcard race. Gary?
A badly needed win for the White Sox, Matt, if they had fallen a game and a half behind, losing the first 2 games of that series. And what about the Red Sox getting swept in Seattle, 5.5 back in the wild card, 6.5 in the East? Are they dead? Roberto Hernandez getting up.
Boy, they sure look dead, and the people they're throwing out to the mound certainly aren't the kind of names that you'd like to see for a pennant contender.
David Alucci fouls the first one off. Manny Ramirez didn't play because of his knee. John Lester hurt his back. He's not going to pitch in his scheduled start tonight in Oakland. They are really hurting.
Seattle taking 5 out of 6 from both the Yankees and the Red Sox.
And they had lost 11 in a row before that.
On the road.
Yesterday it was Cha Sung Beck pitching for the Mariners. 5 2/3, 2 hits against the Red Sox. And that lineup. Lucci fouls it off. And think about the Red Sox that we saw at Fenway Park in June.
They were the best team the Mets had faced. Just all around great talent, great lineup. Lineup that didn't look like you could get out.
I mean, they played the game almost perfectly for 3 days there.
I mean, when we left there, you're shaking your head saying, going to have to take our game up a notch. So the Mets are going to have to take up their game a notch because that's how good the Red Sox were.
And Maine gets DeLucci. It's only the second strikeout for John Maine, and both have been DeLucci. But he's now retired 10 in a row.
He just keeps pumping that fastball in. It's supposed to be inside, but it ran over to the outside corner. Just has that late movement that just fools hitters.
Ron, you almost get the feeling in a game like this, makeup game, Monday afternoon, small crowd. Mets put together that 6-run inning. And since then, Maine has basically been able to throw anything he wants, and the Phillies just, they're not really here.
Yeah, you can feel it too. As a pitcher out there on the mound, you can feel, you don't want to say give up because that's too strong words to say, because that's not it. It's just the flow of the game seems to have been taken over by the Mets, and really you just throw the ball down the middle and somehow you make a play, although
Chris Coast making the most of every at bat in his rookie season, hits one over Sean Green's head, and so the Phillies have a 1-out base runner. Maine had retired 10 in a row before that. As we check out the Toyota National League schedule tonight, a short schedule. Those are the only 4 games. The Marlins go for their 8th straight as they try and finish off a 4-game sweep of Milwaukee. San Diego just a half game back in the wild card. Will throw Woody Williams against Brandon Webb in Arizona tonight. The Dodgers 2 games up on the Padres in the West as they take on the Reds, who lead the wild card. Nunez has hit a comebacker and fly to center. Two and out to Nunez.
You know, we're talking about, when you really feel it, Gary, as a pitcher. Say you got a complete game going, the score's 6-1. It's in the 9th inning. Literally, you could throw 3 balls right down the middle. Fly ball center field, fly ball center field. Bus leaves in 45 minutes. I mean, that's.
Coast at second and 1 out. And Maine perhaps losing a little bit of steam with 107 pitches under his belt now. Willie Randolph keeping an eye on his rookie starter. And he walks Nunez, and now there are 2 men on. So Maine weakening just a tad. That's his second walk of the day, and Rick Peterson wants to see if Fernandez is ready. Willie Randolph's not wasting any time. He's bringing him in the game. Kevin Roberson had been announced as the pinch hitter for the Phillies, and Roberto Hernandez will come on to face him. But another strong effort by John Maine. Had to wait an extra day to make his start, and he was terrific again today. 2 runs and 5 hits, and he gets a nice ovation as he comes off. This call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon Wireless. You too can make the switch over to the most reliable network, Verizon Wireless.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Sterling Mats and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling Mats.
John Maine done after 6 1/3, in line for his 4th consecutive win. And while the pitching change is being made, the outfielders get a chance to congregate.
I always find it funny that they don't stay in their position. They get over there, they have their conversation. Endy doing most of the talking here. It's a lonely day for Endy Chavez. Left fielder, this is not the most fun because the stands are not full behind you. So what happens is that when they only have a few people behind you, you can hear every single conversation.
Well, as long as you're winning
Yeah, I guess
and you're hitting, that's okay, right?
So, yeah, it's when you're not hitting or not winning and they're getting on you as Roberto Hernandez takes over.
Burt coming off his best outing since his return to the Mets against the Cardinals Thursday night. He faced 5, retired 5. Chris Roberson, the pinch hitter, with 2 aboard. Coast at second, Nunez at first. And Roberson takes a strike. Roberson's done a nice job as a pinch hitter. He's not hitting much overall, but 5 for 14 as a pinch hitter. That's .357. But the Phillies wanted to strengthen their bench, and that's why in the last week they've made 2 moves for veterans. As Roberson pops it up.
Hey, I'm home, man. Yes, I'm home.
And Beltran's got it 2 away. Check that was not Roberson. That was Joe Thurston pinch hitting. My mistake. Anyway, he's done a nice job, too. Sorry, Joe.
Joey Ball game.
That's Joey Ball game. Yeah.
And we missed it.
Well, we didn't miss it. I misspoke it. It's that day game after a rainout. So 2 away. And now Jimmy Rollins the batter. So they save Roberson for another spot. Joey Ball game flies out. And Fabio Castro, the little left-hander up in the Philly bullpen. Rollins 1 for 3. He led off the game with a double to right center. And there's a strike, 1-1. And Burt gets ahead 1-2. That bullpen has been nothing short of wonderful. To shortstop, and Reyes has it. Throws out Rollins, and the side retired. So Hernandez comes out of the bullpen, takes care of his assignment on to the bottom of the 7th. Well, to get your Sportsnet New York on the web, make your homepage sny.tv, the online home of all things New York sports. And it's also where you can submit your questions to Dodgers Ask the Booth. Earl from Bayside, Brooklyn wants to know, Ron, why do starting pitchers get to leave the dugout after leaving the game?
Well, they can stay in the dugout if they want to, but the process of getting ready for your next start starts immediately after you're out of the game. And I mean by icing, stretching, things like that that different pitchers do to get ready for their next start. John Maine, probably as we speak, is probably in the trainer's room getting his first bunch of ice on his elbow and his shoulder.
Paulo Duca leads off the home 7th against little Fabio Castro.
Castro was acquired from the Texas Rangers, of course, and has not given up a run so far for the Phillies.
He was a Rule 5 pick out of the White Sox organization last winter, and he's been in 3 different organizations since. He was drafted in the Rule 5 draft by Kansas City, traded the same day to Texas, and then traded in June to Philadelphia. LaDuca 2 for 3 today, has driven in a couple of runs. Castro is only 5'7". Drilled foul.
Just not right the year he's had this year. There's going to be something in the labor laws that stops all those transactions. That's tough to be, not only to move all those places, but to be successful.
Ronnie, we've seen a lot of small left-handers over the years, going back to Tom Hall and Fred Norman and Whitey Ford and Eddie Lopat. I mean, there have been a lot of little lefties over the years. Billy Wagner now, as that one's fouled away. But this guy's only 5'7", and you wonder if there's a certain point where there's just not enough leverage for a guy to pitch in the big leagues at that kind of size.
I think the leverage is fine for guys that are short. I think what happens, though, is that it kills your reputation a lot of time, precedes you that, hey, he's a little guy, he's not going to be able to throw hard, he's going to get hurt. All those things that guys like Pedro Martinez have changed. Now, used to be you would never want someone 6 feet tall, right-hander, to be a starting pitcher. They're going to wear down so quickly. Well, Pedro's obviously proved that wrong. But it is hard, and it's hard to be able to throw hard enough because, to get enough leverage to Randy Marsh gets this one right. I'm telling you, he's just going to have a.
I mean, I was looking at the Philly dugout, and I didn't see anybody yell anything at Randy. But I wouldn't have blamed him if they had.
Yes.
It's been a rough day for the Phillies.
You know, it's funny. If you're left-handed and you're small, you'll get a chance to pitch, but not the other way around. If you're right-handed and small, you don't.
And it always seems to have been that way.
There used to be a guy that pitched in AAA. I pitched in AAA with Jeff Bittiger. And it seemed that, I think he's New Jersey native, and every year he'd put up 12, 13, 14 wins and just never was given a chance.
Hit to left field and pretty deep. But Burrell has room at the edge of the track, and that's the first out. Yeah, every once in a while, a little right-hander will jump out of the pack like a Jeff Brantley.
Jeff Brantley, Jeff Geary for the Phillies. Fantastic, throws 93, 94 miles an hour. But you have to have such extraordinary stuff to really shine, because when you put these people into computers and spit them out, it spits out no, they can't play, or they're a AAA kind of player, until you watch them play and they can throw strikes and get people out.
Beltran swings at the changeup, 0-1. Carlos 0 for 3 today.
And then the game's littered with guys who can throw 95 miles an hour and can't throw it near the plate, and they always seem to get chance after chance after chance.
Well, if you're 6'5" and you can throw in 90s, you're going to get drafted high, and you're going to get that many more opportunities.
Yes.
I mean, there's an idea in a scout's mind about what a high school or college pitcher is supposed to look like to be a high draft pick.
And a guy like, let's say, Mark Pryor, Chicago Cubs, he has the perfect body. If you ask any scout, he's the perfect body for a right-handed starting pitcher, and he can't stay out of the whirlpool.
2-2 to Beltran. Delgado to follow. I think they'd be happy with the whirlpool. It's the surgeon's knife.
Yeah.
3-2.
A guy like John Lieber for the Phillies, very capable starter. Loves to take the ball every day. He wouldn't necessarily have the perfect pitcher's body, but he takes the ball.
Beltran down the line, headed toward the corner. It's in play off the wall. Beltran to second. That ball just stayed fair down the line. And Randy Marsh hustling out there to make the call.
I think we got Dunkin' Donuts here. It's hard to see as it goes against the wall and the sign. Burrell tries to play. There's a little part of the fence there down that line where the ball will shoot back into play, and that one did right behind Burrell.
Right in the coffee cup. Usually if a player gets a hit on the cup, that's not a good thing.
No.
For Beltran it was. Right off the styrofoam.
One sugar, please.
34th double for Beltran, and here's Delgado. And he takes ball 1. Delgado 2 out of 3 against Moyer. Now facing another lefty in Castro. Delgado now with 93 runs batted in. The number is increased in a hurry lately.
You know, Gary, that's the thing about RBI guys, isn't it? When they're RBI guys and they get hot, it seems like they come in bushels full as far as getting those RBI situations.
Of course, on this team, the way it's put together now, it's hard not to come up with men on base. Beltran stealing third, no throw by Coast. Beltran loves to steal third base.
Well, he knows two things. One, that the pitcher's not going to hold him close, and secondly, Nunez is off the bag, so while Beltran is running, Nunez has to be running to cover the third base.
So now the infield has to come in. Mets with a 5-run lead in the 7th, and Delgado with another RBI chance here. Beltran at third and 1 out, and he takes that curveball for a questionable strike. He's saying to Angel Hernandez, I didn't swing, did I? You mean you called that a strike?
There's been some there's a big strike zone today by Angel Hernandez.
On 2-2, Delgado lays off, and it's a full count to Carlos with David Wright to follow.
called the getaway day strike zone. See it occasionally now.
Don't get us started on Angel Hernandez and getaway day. And there's ball 4, and Delgado's on. You know the story from 1998, right?
Tell me again, though, because I like this story.
This is the day before the All-Star game in 1998, as Rich Gooby goes to the mound to talk to Castro. The Mets are playing in Atlanta, where they never win. And the game is tied in the bottom of the 11th inning. And Michael Tucker, who's playing for the Braves at the time, tries to score from third. Slides into Mike Piazza's thigh to the extent that he opens up a 6-inch gash in Piazza's thigh. Never touches home plate. Hernandez calls him safe with the winning run.
Oh,
and John Franco, who was pitching at the time, went into conniptions. I mean, spiking the ball, he got himself suspended in the process. And, you know, there was a story going around that Angel Hernandez was heard to say that he had a flight, since it was the day before the All-Star. So Mets and Hernandez have not been on great terms since then. But it looked like he helped overturn the call on David Wright's ball earlier in the game, so Angel's winning his way back into the Mets' hearts now. If you weren't with us earlier, David hit one that appeared to hit the outside of the third base bag, which would make it a fair ball. Randy Marsh, the third base umpire, called it foul. And then after meeting with the other umpires, they changed the call, and David had himself a hit and an RBI. He drives this one to left, right at Burrell. Beltran tags. He heads home. Burrell's throw to the plate, not in time. Sacrifice fly for David Wright makes it 8-2. And Beltran scores another run, his 105th. RBI number 92 for David Wright.
Well, nice hitting by David as he goes up, keeps that level bat on that pitch up and out of the strike zone from Castro, driving in that run. And Wright with that hit off the bag. Here a little sacrifice fly, starting to maybe come out of those doldrums.
So 2 out, Delgado at first. Here's Sean Green, 1 for 3 on the day. Hit one 400 feet to center field his last time up that Victorino made a nice play on. And Victorino's playing him shallow again in center field. I guess if you have that ability to retreat, you can do that. 0-2 to Sean. You see Victorino.
Beltran manufacturing a run for the Mets again. That's stolen base. Scores in the sac fly.
And Carlos has not stolen that many bases this year. He's got 16, but he loves to steal third base. I guess he feels as though he has a pretty good read.
What a great play by Chris Coast. The reason he stopped that, now a little lucky that hit him in the face, but he had the perfect mechanics, down on his knees, in front, making his body as big as possible to block that pitch.
Green hits another one to center field, and Victorino's got this one lined up. And that ends the inning, but the Mets tack on a run. Beltran with the double, the stolen base, scores on the sac fly, and it's 8-2 Mets going to the 8th. Well, you may have heard that this September the WB11 is changing into the new CW11. So what does that mean to fans of the WB11 news? Well, the name of the station may be changing. Well, the stadium too, but that's not for a couple of years. But the CW11 will still be the place to find your favorite news shows in the morning and at night. I was thinking stadium because we had a WB11 banner hanging right over our booth that they just took down today. So the change is happening right before our eyes.
That's right. Well, Yermo Moda, of course, those are his numbers with the Mets. He struggled with the Indians this year, but pitched very well with the Mets. 95-mile-an-hour fastball, but his pitch is his great circle change.
There's the new stadium. Pile drivers. Well, I think they got an extra break today because of the rescheduled game, because they don't like those pile drivers operating while the game is going on. So an extended lunch break for those guys. Shea and Victorino, first man up against Moda, takes the strike. Victorino 1 for 3. The Phillies go from here to Washington to open a series tomorrow night, while the Mets head to Denver to play the Rockies. With a win today, the Mets would reduce their magic number for clinching the National League East to 18 on the 28th of August.
I saw in the paper today in '86, that team, it was 16, I believe, today. So
keeping pace. Swing and a miss. Good carom for LaDuca, and he throws him out. Now that's when things are going right.
gee,
That ball hit the backstop so hard it came right back to LaDuca, and he was able to throw out the speedy Victorino on the strikeout.
well, it's a day of crazy bounces. That's that good changeup down and away, hit just below the Nikon sign, and it made an easy play. I'm sure Victorino, with his speed, that would have been, he would have been on first base.
Bounce was pretty as a picture for Paul LaDuca. So Mota, since giving up a hit to the first batter he faced as a Met, is now retired 13 in a row with 7 strikeouts. And Utley takes ball 1. And, you know, the Mets have made some deals in the latter portions of this year with players who have had past track records of success, with Oliver Perez and Guillermo Mota. And if either one or both of these guys is able to reclaim what they have done as recently as a couple of years ago, the Mets will have made incredible steals in both cases.
Well, absolutely. Mota, of course, with his Dodger days, I think 2003 was his best year, setting up Eric Gagne, and he was just flat out fantastic that year. 105 innings, I believe, he pitched out of the pen.
1-2 to Utley. Funny story about Mota. When he came to the Mets earlier this week, he was assigned a locker in the clubhouse next to Tom Glavine. That had been Mike Piazza's locker. Somebody told Mota about that, and he kind of laughed. He said, "That's my friend," you know, recalling his incidents with Piazza a couple of springs ago. Back to Mota, and he makes the play and throws out Utley, 2 out. Anyway, the next day we came in the clubhouse and Mota's locker had been moved. Now, I don't know if it was Mota who had it done, but all of a sudden Aaron Howman was in the locker where Mota had been. I said to Aaron, "Why'd you move?" He said, "I didn't do it."
Well, there's Mike there. Usually after a star of Mike's magnitude, usually that locker stays empty for a couple of years, but the Mets, of course, with injuries and everything, limited for space in there in Charlie Samuel's locker room.
Yeah, Glavine had an empty locker next to his, and often stars get that.
Yes.
They get that empty locker next to their own. But yeah, space is limited. It'll be even more limited in a few days when the rosters expand.
And why did the stars get it? One, because they're stars, and secondly, they're the ones that get tons and tons of fan mail, and they have a place to put it.
More stuff. Bigger star, more stuff.
That's right. More free stuff. Beautiful. Oh,
Boxes and boxes of shoes, tubs of fan mail.
I used to go through 35 pairs of spikes a year. One, change it after every start.
Really?
Yep.
Is that because you could?
Well, one is I could, yes, absolutely. But two, I used to I didn't like the toe plate that pitchers use to protect their shoe. I like my shoes to be light, so I would tear them up during a game. Now, if I got knocked out in the first, they didn't get teared up too much. But see his shoe, Mota's shoe, that right front, it's got a little kind of like plastic, hard plastic melted on it. I didn't like that.
You didn't wear a toe plate?
No toe plate, and
Wow.
the shoe would just get ripped up after every start.
Yeah, Howard takes just outside 2-2.
The company I was with used to make that out of kangaroo leather, so it was very light, great shoe, great feeling shoe. It was like wearing a moccasin. Bad side is that it would get ripped up in one start.
So you could run a marathon in those shoes.
That's right. It's
You
great.
Took the spikes off. And Howard lays off the breaking ball in the dirt, 3-2. In 2006, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York are teaming up to strike out cancer. For every K the Mets pitching staff registers, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York will donate $25 to the Hope and Heroes Children's Cancer Fund. Go to www.hopeandheroes.org. 3-2 to Howard. And he just got a piece of it. Funny how Howard has that same way of holding the bat in front of him as the guy who replaced Jim Thome. just fouls that one off.
When Tommy was with Cleveland and I was with Oakland, he used to do that. And occasionally, if there's a first pitch, he was up, wanted to get a first pitch strike, I'd quick pitch him. So while he had that bat out there, just quick pitch it in there and you'd get a strike because he couldn't get it back in time.
And what would he do the next time?
Then I had to come up with smoke and mirrors to try to get him out. He was too good.
He's having a great year with the White Sox this year, although he's been hurting a little bit the last few days. And Howard dribbles another one foul.
Yeah, when Tommy and Howard do that, it's almost like they're calling their shot, aren't they? It's the famous Babe Ruth calling his shot to center field.
Three and two to Howard. This will be the 9th pitch of the at-bat. And he hits it to deep right field. Green going back and just takes a look. And that is gone off the scoreboard. Number 47 for Ryan Howard. He is just a man with a long ball bat. He's now just one shy of the Phillies club record for home runs in a season set by Mike Schmidt. He's homered in all 3 games of this series. It comes in not a bad spot for the Mets, but another impressive home run for Howard to make it 8-3.
Well, very few people can hit this ball off the scoreboard, but Ryan Howard makes this ballpark look tiny.
47 homers, 122 RBIs, and we still have September to go. 1-1 to Burrell.
Well, he used to have a small hole in. Last year, you could pitch him in and up. Well, that's no longer there either.
What do you do now?
Punt.
Bounce it? And remember what happened the 3 or 4 pitches before. He was able to keep the at-bat alive in spots where he might have struck out even earlier this season. I mean, he struck out 148 times. Two and two to Burrell. So Moda had retired 14 straight hitters over 4 appearances before giving up that home run to Howard. No shame there. And that one knocks the mask right off Paul Lo Duca. Checking for dents.
That'll make you wince.
Burrell barely gets a piece of that changeup. Pat Burrell with a home run today, his 24th of the year, his 36th against the Mets. But these have not been fun times for Pat Burrell. Phillies actively tried to trade him before the deadline. They will actively try to trade him this winter. But they'll have to eat a lot of contract if they're going to do that. Three-two to Burrell. Struck him out. Moda fans Burrell to end the inning. Howard hits his 47th home run, but the Mets in control as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Daily News Live is the place to break down the sports issues of the day. Join the panel of special guests as the discussion and debate rages on in the heart of the media capital of the world. Daily News Live weekdays at 5 p.m. only on Sportsnet New York. Matt Smith, one of the players the Phillies acquired in the deal for Bobby Abreu from the Yankees, takes over in the bottom of the 8th.
Well, this is 14th game. Perfect so far for Matt Smith, making it look easy.
Second appearance in this series. Chris Woodward leads off and takes ball 1. Two 2-0 to Woodward as the Mets try and capture the rubber game of this series. Andy Chavez waiting on deck, and then head to Denver after the game today. Open a series with the Rockies tomorrow night, and a chance to reacquaint themselves with Kaz Matsui. You know, we mentioned when the Rockies were here last week that they were intending to call Kaz up as Wagner gets up in the Mets bullpen, but that they avoided bringing Matsui up before the Rockies came to Shea because they knew that he wouldn't get a very good reception here, and they didn't want him to have to deal with all that. Woodward rolls it down to Nunez, and that's the first out. But Kaz was brought up last week and has played extremely well, playing shortstop for the Rockies right now.
Yeah, I don't think they wanted to bring him up here to get the reception, and also the media that he would have to deal with coming back here would have been overpowering, overwhelming.
Guillermo Mota joining the I gave up a home run to Ryan Howard club. He's going to have quite a few members.
I mean, where does he go? This is sophomore season. Where is he going to go with that beautiful small ballpark he plays in?
Chavez 1 for 3 on the day.
I mean, he could have a 55, 150 RBI season.
You're right. Where do you go from there? Well, we mentioned when Ralph was here on Friday night that Ralph has the record for most home runs by a second-year player, 51. Looks like that's going to be out the window. Sorry, Ralph.
He's not going to be happy about it either.
No, he really wasn't happy when we talked about it the other night. And Chavez goes the other way and has another hit. Second hit of the day for Andy Chavez, and he just keeps on rolling.
4 yesterday, 2 today. This nice level swing. That is what he's been doing against left-handers. He has not been pulling the ball against left-handers. They pitch him away, so he just pokes it away. And nice hitting by Andy Chavez.
Julio Franco will bat for Guillermo Mota, and then Billy Wagner will get an inning of work in the 9th in a non-save situation. So Mota did his work for an inning, gets the fist bump. You know, people lived for how many thousands of years with handshakes? Before the high five, and then the 2-finger, and then the fist bump, the chest bump.
That was my least favorite, the 2-finger during the 80s with hitting instructor Bill Robinson. He loved that. Luckily, I didn't make it to first base very often, so I didn't have a lot of 2-finger handshakes.
I was not a big fan of that. But it all started with the high five, because handshakes were good enough until the high five came along.
I was watching on television the game where Ron Guidry struck out 18. After the game was done, he walked off the mound. He got all the way almost to the dugout. Thurman Munson came over, shook his hand. Catfish Hunter came, shook his hand. One gave him a little nice slap on the back, and that was it. And you know how guys celebrate so much now. Then it was just a handshake and take it into the dugout where you would celebrate in the locker room.
Right, the whole thing with the handshake line after the game, that's a relatively recent phenomenon. The high five, it started in basketball sometime in the 80s. I'm not exactly sure where or when. 3-2 to Franco. But from there, you know, we've had every variety of high five, low five, medium five.
To Jose Reyes and Carlos Delgado, when he hits a home run, I don't know what they do, but there's about 4 or 5 different things that they have to do before he gets in the dugout.
Well, that's like a fraternity secret handshake. Complete with the hip movements and everything else. Life in so many ways has gotten so much more complicated. in there for a call, strike 3, and Franco down looking.
How about this one? I never understand this. Basketball. Line up for a foul.
Shortstop, Jose Reyes.
Oh, sorry. Took that pitch on the inside corner. Basketball. Shoot a free throw. Guy misses it. All the guys give him a low 5. What is that?
Encouragement. We're still with you, bud.
What do you do if Shaq's shooting them? Real encouragement, I guess.
You just have to reach a little higher. It's the strike to Reyes, who has 2 hits today, a bunt single and a triple. 16 triples on the year now for Reyes.
Doubles in tennis or volleyball, they congratulate each other every point, win or lose.
Well, volleyball, they have a group meeting after every point.
Where they clap hands and then get back to their position.
I mean, I'm talking regular volleyball, not the beach.
The team, yeah.
6 players, they all come together in a little huddle after each point. They get to know each other awfully well. One and 2 to Reyes.
Pitchers now like Esteban Loaiza, who pitched for the Oakland Athletics last year with the Nationals, he has a different handshake for every player on the team. So after he warms up, when he comes in to see before he's going to go out to throw the first pitch, he gives a different handshake with every single guy.
That's too much preparation. Reyes to right center, Victorino cutting across. And that retires the side. So Matt Smith continues his scoreless string. On to the 9th inning. Billy Wagner on to try and finish it up for the Mets as they close out the homestand. Forgot his name. All right, Matt, what has gotten into Gary Bennett? 2 straight walk-off hits. Remember, he hit the home run here at Shea.
That's right.
He's got 4 home runs this year, all since August 18th.
10 for his last 15. Just amazing.
Joe Hardy.
That's right. And they've had trouble all year long in the catcher spot. Yadier Molina, of course, had an off year with the bat.
Jose Hernandez will pinch hit for the Phillies against Billy Wagner. As Billy, who has not pitched in 5 days, will get an inning of work here, with the Mets sporting a 5-run lead. Hernandez acquired last week from the Pirates in a straight cash deal. It used to be a staple in baseball. You don't hear that much anymore. A straight cash deal. Take them off our hands and give us some money. But the Phillies needed to beef up the bench, so they got Hernandez, and they've now got Jeff Conine as well. 0-2. I'm a little surprised that they're not using Conine here just to get his feet wet in a Phillies uniform.
Although what a bad job that is. Sitting on the bench, team's losing 8-3. Hey, Jose, grab a bat. Really got a hit against Billy Wagner.
Billy's last outing was against the Cardinals. He got his 32nd save of the year last Wednesday night. 1-2 to Hernandez.
And I think this is a definite reaction to Willie and Rick Peterson watching Wagner throw and seeing that he throws better when he gets more work. So they don't want him to go too long without some work on the mound.
And he strikes out Hernandez to start the 9th. So 1 out and nobody on. Geico Sports Night, the news and information source for all New York area sports fans. Geico Sports Night covers the stories that New York sports fans care about. 6 p.m., 10 p.m., and 1 a.m. every night, only on Sportsnet New York. Chris Coast 1 for 3. Double to right his last time up, and takes ball 1 from Wagner. And while you want to get Wagner work, in this situation, you don't want him to get too much work, and so the Mets keep the bullpen busy just in case Billy has to throw a whole bunch of pitches.
Probably looking at, you don't want him to throw more than 25. I think that would be the number.
Got a game tomorrow night in Denver, and even though the ballpark has changed in Denver, you still expect to need your bullpen.
You can see it, though. He hasn't had work, and Wagner's just a little off with his fastball.
Well, he has hit a brilliant stretch over the last 3 weeks, picking up save after save and just blowing people away.
I mean, that was a get-me-over fastball at 97 miles an hour.
And Coast went around 2-2. Well, we got the official attendance number today. It's a 1979 style number. Only the turnstile count counted today, not the full tickets sold. 8,766. And Coast completely baffled. And Wagner strikes him out with a slider in the dirt. 2 up, 2 struck out. As we check out the AOL game summary, Mets with the 6-run third, their second big inning in this series, and that's been enough. John Maine in line for his 4th straight win. Carlos Delgado, a couple of RBIs. And Ryan Howard and Pat Burrell going deep for the Phils. Want a better high-speed internet? You belong at AOL. Alman and Bradford staying busy. Abraham Nunez, the last hope for the Phillies. And he takes a strike. One and one to Nunez as the erstwhile Mr. Marlin loosens up on deck. That would be the newest Philly, Jeff Conine, just acquired from the Orioles. But now Wagner 1 strike away from denying Conine an at-bat. And so this small but feisty crowd in a makeup game on a Monday afternoon, happy that they came. He struck him out, and the ball game is over. Billy Wagner strikes out the side of the 9th inning to put on the finishing touches on an 8-1 homestand for the New York Mets. They swept the Rockies. They swept the Cardinals. They took 2 out of 3 from the Phillies. The Mets reduced their magic number to 18 for clinching the National League East as they take the rubber game from the Phillies.
Well, the Mets just an outstanding effort today. John Maine again with another strong game. Bullpen gives up nothing except for the home run Mota gave up to Howard. And another win for the Mets.
Now the Mets had to wait an extra day to play this game, but they take care of business with the big 3rd inning against Jamie Moyer. And John Maine gets his 4th straight win. And the Mets will head out on the road after a tremendous homestand here at Shea. Back to Shea in just a moment. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. Visit geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. By Jeep, the all-new 7-passenger Jeep Commander. It's your world. Take command. By Aflac. Ask about it at work. Crank, starring Jason Statham. Raise your adrenaline in theaters everywhere September 1st. And by the New York State Smokers Quit line. Call 1-866-NY-QUITS for free help and advice. Start your smoke-free life today. The Mets in a makeup game after yesterday's rainout, do exactly what they needed to do as they beat the Phillies 8-3. And with that, open up a 15.5 game lead over the Phillies. With 33 games left to play, that translates into a magic number of 18 for clinching the division.
15.5 game lead over the Phillies, who are going to Washington to try to regroup.
Be sure to join us for our next broadcast tomorrow night at 9 o'clock as the Mets head to Colorado to take on the Rockies. Coming up next, it's Nissan Post Game Live. Mets facing the crafty left-hander, Jamie Moyer. Pat Burrell did what Pat Burrell often does against the Mets with a 2-run homer, but the Mets got the benefit of a call. Charlie Manuel took an early exit, and the Mets pounded together a 6-run inning in support of John Maine, who got his 4th straight win to go to 4-3 as the Mets finish an 8-1 homestand. Now for Ron Darling and Chris Connor, I'm Gary Cohen. Let's go to Matt Yaloff in our studios.
All right, thanks a lot, Gary. Coverage of the Mets continues here on SNY with Nissan Postgame Live. Ron Darling will chime in from Shea Stadium. He'll break down this game, and you'll also hear from Willie Randolph as well. Geico Sports Night comes your way at 6. Daily News Live comes your way at 5. A full day of Mets and U.S. Open. It's all ahead. Nissan Postgame Live after a break here on Sportsnet New York. Well, the magic number is into the teens. It's 18 to clinch the Eastern Division outright. Welcome to Nissan Postgame Live. I'm Matt Yaloff. Before we get going, a programming reminder. Daily News Live at 5 o'clock. Geico Sports Night at 6 o'clock. Now, Mets and Phils, rain out Sunday, makeup game today. Not a huge crowd on hand, but the Mets still take care of business. John Maine had to wait a day, scheduled to go yesterday, and Jimmy Rollins starts things off with a double to right center field. Rollins into second base, his 36th double of the season. A couple of batters later, Chase Utley now. He's walked by John Maine. So Maine's in a little bit of trouble here. Pat Burrell at the plate. You know he's a Met killer, right? Not this time. He grounds into the fielder's choice. They get their man at second base. Inning over, Maine out of trouble. Into the third. Jamie Moyer gets the start for the Phils. Moyer just comes over. This is his second start for the Phillies since coming over from Seattle. And Endy Chavez, big surprise. He's on base. 2 for 4 in the game. John Maine lays down the sacrifice. Chris Coast to second. That is an error. Everybody's safe. First and second, Coast with the E. Then Jose Reyes. He lays it down. Jose Reyes beats the throw to first. Everyone is safe, and the Mets are in business. Bases loaded, no outs. Paul Lo Duca is your guy. Paul Lo Duca, as he does, goes to right. That scores Endy Chavez. Mets up 1-0. Check out Jose Reyes, though. Waiting just a little bit, perhaps getting in the way of Ryan Howard. Then it's Carlos Delgado up the middle. They're playing little ball. That sneaks through. Jose Reyes comes in. Paul Lo Duca comes in. It's a 3-0 game. How about David Wright? You know he's been slumping, right? How about that one over the bag? It is called foul by Randy Marsh at third base. Manny Acta states his case. He says, hey, it hit the bag. Take another look. We got to see a replay here. Does it? You can't really tell. It may be, perhaps, who knows. But Willie Randolph comes out. He says, hey, that hit the bag. The umpires, they get together. What's going on? Randy Marsh, Angel Hernandez. Did it hit the bag? Did it not hit it? Let's have a little huddle time. Let's all have a group hug. What does he come up with? They come up with, it hit the bag. It's foul, and Manuel is out. Charlie Manuel argues David Wright has to fight for every base hit he gets, but he is there at first base, and that scores Carlos Beltran. So it's a good laugh for David Wright. It's 4-0, and the Mets are off and running. Sean Green digging in. Sean Green's been productive. This one doesn't make it out, but it makes it to the wall. Carlos Delgado, let's go. Comes on in there, and the Mets are up 5-0. Top of the fourth, it's 6-0. Pat Burrell, this time he gets it. It's a 2-run home run, his 24th of the year, and his 36th career home run against the Mets. It's still a 6-2 game. The Mets on top, still in the fourth. Check at this. David Wright barehanded to first base, and Carlos Delgado, little backhand action. Did they get him? Don't know about that. Doesn't look like it, but they get it anyway. Bottom four, 6-2 Mets. Jose Reyes at the plate. Reyes to left field. Burrell doesn't come up with it. All the way to the wall. Reyes into third base. He's on with another triple. Jose Reyes makes things happen. Next batter, Paul Lo Duca. And Paul Lo Duca, wouldn't you know it, Paul Lo Duca singles, because that's what Paul Lo Duca does. He's productive. It's a 7-2 game. But it doesn't end that way, because in the 8th inning, this is worth seeing just because it's worth seeing. Ryan Howard, is anyone bigger or stronger? My goodness. Just enjoy. That's ridiculous. Off the health plan scoreboard, his 47. He does that more often. The Mets are going to need a health plan. They're down 8-3. They lose 8-3. The Mets win. 47 home runs now for Ryan Howard. That ties David Ortiz for the major league lead. 80 wins for the Mets if they go 20-13 the rest of the way. That gets them to 100. That'll be the first 100-win season for the Mets since they won the division back in 1988. Paul Lo Duca, 2 for 4. He's hitting .317, and he spoke with Chris Cotter.
Paulie, today's sort of the whole season in a microcosm. You can win with the long ball, but you can also play small ball like you guys did today.
You know, we sort of dunked it in a little bit. Texas Leaguers a lot on him. You know, Carlos hit a good double. If you really look at it, we didn't hit a lot of balls on the button, but they fell in for us. And, you know, Johnny Maine pitched a good game.
Yeah, John Maine has been fantastic. What did he do today that he's been doing all along that has made him successful?
Well, this is a huge game for him after the last game he had. He bounced back really well, and he threw strikes. You know, he struggled the first 3 innings, and but he mixed it up. He threw his changeup a little later, more for a strike, and he got his curveball going. I think that made him turn the corner.
David Wright with the base hit off the bag. That was a really strange play. Sometimes do you need something like that to kind of break you out of a little slump?
Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need to break your bat about 10 pieces and it falls in, something like that. And that was huge for David. You know, we know he's going to get hot, and we know we're going to need him for the, you know, the stretch run.
For you, you don't play very often in day games, but you seem to have a lot of success at the plate in day games. Why is that?
You know, I don't know. Somebody said you haven't played a day game in about 10 years, so I don't know. I mean, I don't mind playing day games. I'm sort of a morning person anyway. I think breakfast is my favorite meal anyway.
One final thing. How dangerous is Ryan Howard, and how do you pitch around that guy and get him out? He seems to be on an unbelievable roll right now.
It's unbelievable. I mean, Mota threw him 3 very, very good changeups. Throws him a 96-mile-an-hour fastball in the inner half, and he hits it 500 feet. He's an unbelievable player. He's going to be a good player for a long time.
All right, thanks, Paulie. Great game.
You bet.
All right, Paul LaDuca and Chris Cotter, and here's the Mets box score. Sean Green, another RBI today, so he has 4 RBIs in 4 games as a Met. That's good. Carlos Beltran scores 2. He has 105 runs scored. His personal season high, 114. He could shatter that mark if everything goes well the rest of the season. Ryan Howard, Paul LaDuca talked about him. We showed it to you. That's his 47th homer, but it's the 8th home run he's hit against the Mets this season. The last player to hit 8 in one season against the Mets, Dave Kingman, back in 1980 when he was playing for the Cubs. Pat Burrell smacks his 24th home run. The Phillies have homered in 18 consecutive games against the Mets. That is pretty amazing. Despite the Burrell home run, John Maine gets it done. He defeats the Phillies for the 3rd time this month, the 4th pitcher in the last 40 years to beat one team in 1 month 3 times. Jim Bibby did it in 1977. John Tudor did it against the Phillies in 1988. And David Wells did it against Cleveland in July of '02. So Maine's line looks like this: 6 1/3, 5 hits, 2 runs. The big thing here is not so much the line and the win, but it's how much and how well he bounced back after getting just housed by Albert Pujols and the Cardinals in his last outing. We'll talk to Ron Darling about that and Maine's focus a little bit later on in the show. Still ahead on Nissan Postgame Live, we go back to Ron. He's at Shea Stadium. We look ahead with some of tonight's out-of-town big league action, some of the matchups, and Willie Randolph checks in as he packs his bags and his guys head west to Colorado after a stellar 8-1 homestand. We're coming right back on Nissan Postgame Live. Welcome back to Nissan Postgame Live. The Mets beat the Phillies today in the makeup game. Rain out yesterday. They win it this afternoon behind John Maine. Here to talk about it, actually not here, but at Shea is our friend Ron Darling standing by there. Hey, Ron, first let's talk about this team as a whole. What does it tell you about the Mets? They have a rain out yesterday, got to play today, got to get on a flight tonight, but they remain focused and get it done against a hungry Phillies club.
Well, think about it. Around the All-Star break, you had a lot of people questioning whether they would let up a little bit because of the big lead they've had. They've just been the opposite. They're putting the hammer down right now, 8-1 on this homestand. I'm sure things are not going to change when they go on the road. All right, John Maine now on the mound. And, Ron, you've talked in the past on this show and on the pregame show about Maine sometimes can lose focus while he's in a game. After getting crushed by the Cardinals, he comes out, gets out of a jam early, and is very good. What does that tell you about Maine? Well, I think Maine has just been everything and more that the Mets needed, and I think part of it is that he's just very aggressive. He's aggressive in the strike zone, aggressive with his fastball. You'll see a lot of young kids when they come up, they'll kind of throw a ball around the strike zone. He doesn't. Goes right after the hitters, and that's allowed him really not to even throw as many breaking balls as you'd usually see from a young guy. But he's starting to mix in that changeup, starting to mix in that curveball, that little cutter of his. So Maine is just rounding into great form. And do you think Rick Peterson and Willie Randolph now are buying into the idea that Maine can be a guy they can rely on every 5th day, even without a huge lead in a division, but maybe in a crucial situation? Well, I think he's proven that he belongs out there. He belongs on this team, and he belongs in the starting rotation. And he doesn't do anything every time he starts to take away from that. Even the game against the Cardinals, where he got a couple of home runs off the bat of Albert Pujols, a lot of people have gone there. He still comes back and rebounds with this great game today. So he's proven that he belongs in the staff. And I think, you know, Willie Randolph and Rick Peterson are very, very confident when he takes the mound.
All right, small ball today. We've seen long ball, we see small ball, we see speed, we see pitching. The Mets used the little game to beat the Phillies this afternoon. That's a heck of a weapon to have if you're not hitting balls out of the park.
Well, that's the thing that makes them so tough, and it makes them the best team in the National League. They can do just about anything. They can beat you with their legs, with Jose Reyes and Endy Chavez, especially in the lineup. They can beat you with starting pitching. They can definitely beat you in the bullpen. Their bullpen has just been amazing on this homestand. And, of course, they can beat you with power with Beltran and Delgado and Wright and on and on and on. So the best team in the National League. The Mets have shown that they are just, operating on all cylinders right now. Like you said, now, at this time of the year, sometimes the dog days, you get worse. Well, they've put the hammer down and have gotten better. 8-1 again on this homestand.
Who's responsible for that, Ron? Manager, players, both? What do you think?
Well, I think, Willie Randolph will tell you that you have to give respect to the players, that they're coming, very professional, come every single day, ready to play the game right. And then that goes back to the manager, because for the last 2 years, he's been preaching that to win these series. Now 27-11 so far, with 4 splits in their series in the year.
All right, Steve Traxel in Colorado tomorrow. The Mets fly out like now, maybe in the next hour or two, if weather permits. We know the long ball doesn't fly as well as it did out there, but Traxel has been giving them up more often lately. What can we look for from Traxel tomorrow?
Well, I think Steve Traxel is just going to continue his outstanding pitching. Yeah, Steve's gotten some runs when he pitched, but he has nothing to do with that, or a small part when he's hitting. But I think he's been pitching better as the season's gone along, especially this last month. He had one hiccup in one of his starts lately, but really has pitched better as he's gone along. I like the way he's used his fastball the last 2 or 3 starts. Very aggressive, getting ahead of the hitters. And when he gets ahead, that split finger, he doesn't need to throw for a strike. He can throw it in the dirt. So Steve Traxel just having a fantastic year, and I think he wants to close it out in great form here in the last part of August and into September.
All right, Ron, we'll see you here tomorrow for Baseball Night in New York. You'll be in the studio with us. We thank you. Ron Darling at Shea Stadium. We'll see Ron tomorrow night on SNY. All right, we're going to take a break now on Nissan Postgame Live. When we come back, our friend Gary Apple joins us with a preview of what's coming up on Daily News Live at 5 o'clock this evening. Don't go away. We're back with the Nissan play of the game. It comes from the 3rd inning. David Wright up. David Wright, ground ball to 3rd. Looks like it kicks off the bag or not. Called a foul ball. Here's the replay. It's a little tough to tell. The only way you may be able to tell is the angle. Called foul. Umpires convene, have a little powwow. They say fair ball. That's a base hit. That scores a run. David Wright has himself a hit. Charlie Manuel's ejected. Mets go on to win it. All right. So now the Mets head for the Rockies. A 3-game series. You'll see all of them here on SNY. Pre-game coverage begins for each and every one of them at 8:30 p.m. with Baseball Night in New York. Steve Traxel, last start against the Rockies, August 18th at Shea. 7 innings of work. He gave up 3 runs, and he recorded a win in that game. What else is new? It's all he does is win. His last start against the Cardinals. Steve Traxel was working with an 8-run lead, but the Cardinals hit 3 home runs to cut into that edge, but still, Traxel got the W. 5 innings, 6 runs, and after that win, Traxel spoke with Chris Cotter about victory number 13.
Would you characterize today as sort of an up and down start?
More down than up, definitely. Only up parts were my pitches, especially my fastball. So, yeah, I was struggling right from the beginning, and was able to get through a couple innings, and to win. But I'm not happy the way I pitched. So
it's one of those days where from the start you're gonna have a hard time keeping it down.
Yeah, a little bit. You're trying to make adjustments, and then I was over adjusting, throwing a lot of balls down below the zone. So got to the point where we had that big lead. That's probably pitching to the lead than I was instead of just pitching. And a couple of balls that are up in the zone got hit real hard, and didn't go very deep in the game. I need to do that with that kind of a lead, and we ended up using guys tonight we didn't want to use, but we ended up winning. So I guess that's the bright spot.
Steve made some mistakes up in the zone. I don't know if he just lost his concentration or just, obviously it was just bad location, but we gave him a nice little lead, and he made it interesting for us. But he's pitched well for us all year, so you're entitled every once in a while to not have that real crisp outing like he usually does.
Just one of those weird baseball oddities, where you pitch real well, and I mean, last time I faced these guys, I gave up 1 run and lost. So, maybe it just breaks even that way.
All right, that was Traxel and Willie after his last start against St. Louis. This is the matchup for tomorrow. Traxel against Byung-Hyun Kim. Traxel is 11-1 since the beginning of June. His ERA for the season an even 5.00. All right, today John Maine was good. 6+ against the Phillies. He runs his record to 4-3. And John Maine talked with the media masses at Shea just a few minutes ago.
How did you feel today compared to your last outing? Sharper?
Actually, I felt a little worse. It's just I couldn't get going. It took me a little while to get going, but I felt better in the 4th, 5th inning, and I felt good last start. Just a couple bad pitches, and I got paid.
John, with the extra day, did that at all factor into?
No, that doesn't bother me. You still got to go out there and pitch and warm up the same, and just you make the adjustment and go out there and pitch.
Is it hard to get going too with a long offensive inning? when you're sitting down and waiting for those.
Yeah, just make sure I hurry up and get out there quicker so I can throw a couple more pitches. But I think I'm not gonna complain about it because you'd rather have those innings than a shorter inning. So I'm happy about it.
Does it also help you settle down, maybe, to know you got that?
It makes it easier pitching. They did a great job. Last few starts, scoring runs for me. It'll make it easier for me to pitch, and I thank them for it.
It's nice after last out when you let up those runs, all fools, home runs, come back and get the outing.
It feels good, and I made some mistakes, and like I've been saying, each outing is I learn from it, and just try to get better, and I still got more learning to do, and next start hopefully it'll be a little better.
John, did you think that in the first inning, Brian's shot was a home run?
Every time it comes off as bad, you think it's a home run, but it's just, he hit it in the big part of the ballpark. I think, if it was down the lines, it would have gone out, but he just happened to hit it in the wrong spot. A good spot for me.
Nervous?
No, he's a good hitter. I just try and make pitches, and I don't think about it. If it happens, it happens. I just try and make a pitch and get it out. And I was lucky that time.
Are you aware of how much damage Pat Burrell has done to the Mets over the years?
I didn't know until I heard it on the TV earlier.
So you're not alone.
No, yeah, he got another one. He's a good hitter. He's strong and puts it down the balls and hit it far.
John, how can you face a team the second and third time in a month, or is there any different preparation?
I think it goes both ways. They also know, they know what you have, but on the other hand, I know what they can do and what they can't do. I get a better idea. And you just go back and watch the video and study the scouting reports and just go out there and just try and make pitches and try to execute what you think that is the best for that hitter.
All right, John Maine defeats the Phillies for the 3rd time in the month of August. He runs his record to 4-3 on the season. We take another quick break. After a break, John Maine's manager, Willie Randolph, checks in with his comments following today's victory. All right, makeup game for the Mets today after yesterday's rainout. Under 9,000 people in the stands, 8-7-6-6. The crowd at Shea with the U.S. Open going on across the street from Shea and Flushing. But still, the Mets and Willie Randolph get it done. Here's the skipper.
That's the way to do it, and Johnny Maine threw strong innings today, and swing the bats a little bit. So a nice overall win. Get out of Dodge for a little while and come on back.
You like the fact that you played a lot of small ball offensively today, stealing bases and kind of getting runs in without relying on home runs?
Well, that's part of our arsenal. We can hit you a lot of different ways, of course, and everyone feels the moment more than anything. We try to be versatile as we can. We didn't start out to play that way, but it's nice to know that you can manufacture runs and also hit the home run out of the ballpark. So, it's always nice to see a different twist every once in a while. And when we attack teams that way, we're real tough.
Well, can you take us through the play for the ball? I guess at the bag, is that what they want to do?
Yeah, from my angle, it was pretty obvious that it hit the edge of the bag. I mean, unless it hit a rock or something, they just jutted out to the left. And, you know, Randy, who's an excellent umpire, he obviously was screened on the play or didn't really see it hit the front of the base there. And they did it right. Anytime the umpires get together and converse on a play like that and get it right, it's always the right thing to do because it definitely hit the bag. So that was a good call on their part to get together and get it right.
Have you ever seen a play like that where a ball that's left live is, I guess?
Not really. And I thought he was fair also because it really should have been a double, but they just gave him one base. I guess he was trying to appease Charlie a little bit, and Charlie got thrown out anyway, so he didn't matter. He should have just gave us a double, you know. But you know, it was it was an unusual play, but you know, hey, you know, no harm, no foul, I guess.
The guy you hit, is it kind of good for you to see him kind of get a break?
Hey, you know, you need breaks every once in a while. David's hit some balls well lately, and you know, they don't always even out. But in this case, hopefully he can, you know, get it rolling back the other way. He had a big RBI for us on a sac fly, so David's going to hit. You know, I mean, I know everything seems to be overanalyzed and over-scrutinized, but you know, David's going to be fine, and I guarantee you, by the time we get back, he'll be back over 300 again.
Hey, Willie, Maine got nicked up a little bit last time out, and then was it good to see him bounce back today and pitch well, you know, especially after, you know, having to wait a day and then going out there?
Yeah, well, you know, he's pitched well since he's been up here, and every once in a while you're going to have a little bump in the road here and there. I mean, he made pitches today when he had to, strong innings, got through a couple where he breezed a little bit, so he gave you a little bit of everything, and that one inning where I think he, you know, got a little bit careless, walking one guy and then get the home run by the big monster over there. Howard's been unbelievable. I'm glad to not have to see him anymore. You know, he bounced back nice. That's what you got to do. I mean, you can't expect a guy to go out and stay on the pace he was on for a while. I mean, you know, he's going to have an off game every once in a while, but he got right back at it.
Well, is he adapting to stretching out and going a little bit deeper into games? Do you see that as quality he's doing better at?
No, I don't think that. I think Johnny takes the ball. I mean, if he's throwing the ball well, we stay with him. Again, like I said, I think he hit that nice inning, I think in the 6th, which one it was, where he had an easy inning, 1, 2, 3. But it's not about adapting. It's just, you know, he's going to give us what he's got. You know, I just want him to kind of just leave it all out there and just not take any breaks at certain times. Sometimes it seems like he, you know, takes his foot off the accelerator a little bit, and he needs to just keep firing at him and keep going, because when he does that, he's more aggressive and things work out better for him.
Well, they talk about taking this successful homestand on the road now. Colorado's one of them.
Well, Colorado's always a place where you could be good or bad for you. I mean, you know, it's you can take advantage of their conditions, but the thing is to make sure that you don't change anything. It's like when you go into Philadelphia, you hitters have to stay small and just make contact. But they're a scrappy team. You know, we played pretty well against them this year, first time going out there. So we're looking forward to it. We played well on the road this year, and no reason to change yet, and change now. And then we go to Houston for 3. So another ballpark where you have to stay small and just continue just to make solid contact. So, you know, we have fun here at home and looking forward to more fun on the road.
It looked like Jose wanted that home run inside the park, but Manny stopped him at third. Do you think he could have got it?
No, I don't want to take a chance on that. I don't think he would have had a shot. You know, then you don't want to take a chance of a collision and him getting hurt in that situation. So, I mean, if it was in right center field, he probably had a better shot. But down the line like that, and Rollins has a pretty good relay arm. In a situation like that, you don't want to take a chance and, you know, God forbid him getting hurt at home plate. It would have been close, I think, so it wasn't an easy one. I think he would have probably had to slide on that. So you can't always get greedy. I mean, you like to get greedy sometimes, but, you know, he's got a lot of triples, and, you know, inside the Parkers don't come too often, but I think he'll take a triple. What's that, 16 triple for him, something like that? That's pretty awesome. I had 16 triples one year. I really did that. Well, for the year, I mean, he's not even finished yet. Matter of fact, I might have had 19, but that's still a lot. You know, can I gloat for a second here? Can I just brag for a little while here? You know,
how old were you?
I had to be pretty young because you know, if I was older, I wouldn't be able to get around the base paths. But yeah, I think I did somewhere back in the early '80s, somewhere around there.
Is it at all useful for someone as young as David to see? Carlos Delgado's obviously gone through his share of funks and he's bounced back. Even what A-Rod's gone through this year, is it useful to see that even good players can go through extended periods like this? Well,
it's to me, again, it's inevitable. I mean, it's how you deal with it more than anything. I mean, You know, like I said, A-Rod struggles. He's one of the best players in the game, so you know David's going to have his ups and downs also. It depends. It's how you deal with it. You know, Mike, it's really how you handle it, and David's been very consistent every day. That's why I don't worry about him, because his demeanor is always solid. That's a big part of, you know, going through, you know, little funks. Again, I don't even call it a slump, really, because I really don't believe in, you know, if you're in a slump, it's when you're swinging bad, when you're missing pitches, when you're swinging through balls. A-Rod, I think, is in a slump. I mean, that, you know, he's just not quite clicking from what I see. But David, for the most part, has made decent contact. You know, he still understands he needs to get good pitch to hit. And when he does, he hits the ball hard. So, you know, this is all part of the growing process, all part of maturing. And, you know, I think that the good part about Dave is that he handles it well, and he knows that he's going to hit eventually. So, you know, you have to answer the questions sometimes, and sometimes that gets a little frustrating more than anything else. But, you know, I think he'll be fine. He will be fine.
All right, that's Willie Randolph, and thanks to the magic of the internet, 13 triples for Willie Randolph in 1979 when he was 24 years old. The Mets' magic number is down to 18 in the National League East to clinch the division outright. Mets win it 8-3, 2 RBIs for LaDuca, Delgado, and David Wright. John Maine gets the win. It's now off to Colorado. The Mets, 8-1 in this homestand, hit the road for 3 out west against the Rockies. You'll see it here. Daily News Live at 5. Take care.